Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of Season 2, Round 2 of the Continental Racing League live here on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark, and you join us here on the Spanish East Coast in the Valencian community, namely on the outskirts of Cheste, here in the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, sometimes also referred to as the Circuit Valencia, but not to be confused with the former European Grand Prix street circuit of the same name. The Circuit Ricardo Tormo was founded in 1999, just before the turn of the millennium, and finds itself 14 turns and 2.4 miles of FIA Grade 2 in its current configuration. Former home of the Valencian E-Prix in the 2021 Formula E Championship, on a routine basis though the home of the Valencian Grand Prix in MotoGP. It also hosted the 2020 European Grand Prix during the oddball season during the COVID-19 pandemic. Otherwise, it's seen recent introduction to racing under the TCR World Tour, and for the last 14 years has been part of the NASCAR Euro Series calendar. A wonderfully varied circuit then, the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, that has given us some brilliant spectacles of racing over multiple championships in the last couple of years here on TRTN. Should be no surprise then, heading into our first double sprint of the season, that we'll find ourselves rewarded with plenty more opportunities on a track that has given us a hell of a lot more for less. Taking a look away then from the track and in towards tonight's regulations finds us on the first time ever in this series on the double sprint format for Season 2. Taking a look at the moment, you join us in the middle of free practice, 10 minutes of which roughly left to go, a little under that as we're talking. And coming up around the corner will be the first of our two qualifying sessions. 20 minutes will set the stage for Race 1's grid, and then we'll run it back after Race 1 into Quali 2 and Race 2. Double the pole position opportunities, double the race win opportunities, and double the points opportunities. And all of that comes packaged with no additional baggage. No mandatory pit stops for our drivers today, heading in towards round 2 of the championship. Taking a look away from action at the season premiere 2 weeks ago in Imola, and looking over towards the team's championship, one of the centerpieces of this series finds two of its leading teams, Well Racing, comprised of Carlos Disch and Fake Galaxy, and Audi Sport Team Apex, courtesy of Yuya Oya and Connor Brennan, separate by only a single point at the head of the field. Behind them, CRT Team Comac, courtesy of Mark Burton and Colin Beattie, make third place with 79 points. Humbell Racing Team, Reese Humphreys and Samuel Bell, fourth with 65 points. Then rounding out the top 5, a joint position between Stinkin' Rich and Vanguard Motorsports. Behind them, CRT Racing Porsche in 7th place. In 8th place, the Mustang Team, 9th place for Freeman Sim Racing, and rounding out the top 10 is S3NP. Another factor of the championship, before we discuss the drivers, is the manufacturer standings that finds, once again, like we saw with Well Racing and Audi Sport Team Apex, two manufacturers there at the head of the field, this time separate by 16 points, Mercedes AMG and Audi Sport. It's an all-German podium when you look a little further down to see Porsche in 3rd. Then, getting outside of the podium, we have Ford in 4th, and a joint 5th between Lamborghini and McLaren at 51 points. Ferrari in 7th, with Nissan in 8th to round out those scoring positions. Still, as it would stand to be the case, only 8 manufacturers in the championship standings. Heading back in towards today's session, we're on board at the moment. You can see up in front, that's Tom Stolmeyer. We've been following here with Colin Beattie, currently right along with him here in free practice. And taking a look into those drivers' standings then, reeling away from action in Imola, the home, or I should say former home, of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Taking a look then in towards the drivers' championship standings, sees Carlos Disch at the head of the field, 66 points strong. He's 6 points clear of Finnish talent Yuya Oya in 2nd of Audi Sport Team Apex. Then in 3rd, Mark Burton of CRT Team Comac, the teammate here of Colin Beattie on our screens at the moment. Then 4th place behind is Smelly Hippie with 51 points, rounding out the top 5, Eduardo Odoni. In 6th place, we find Connor Brennan with Chase Hamilton in 7th with 42 points. You'll note this very, very tight point spread between the top 10 as it stands. And those scoring positions carry all the way down the order. 8th place for Fake Galaxy, who suffered quite a bit of hardships in Imola, was at one point leading that race, fell down, but made his way back up into the top 10. Samuel Bell in 9th, rounding out the top 10, Guy Rayfield of Vanguard Motorsport. So following on board with Beattie and Stolmeyer here, things are shaping up to be rather interesting in tonight's installation of the Continental Racing League Season 2 Teams Championship, because having a look at those balance of performance listings would reveal Ford to have the best and very clear advantage over their contemporaries on tonight's grid. Nissan and Ferrari will stay neutral over the course of today's event. No weight gained or lost under balance of performance changes. Then we see for Mercedes on screen at the moment, a single kilo on for the AMG. Then Porsche with 2 kilos on, Lamborghini with 7 kilos on, McLaren with 8. This could be a rather interesting one here. Seeing them with Stolmeyer across the line there, 1:33.819. Taking a look at those timing listings for today. Right now, fastest in the session, one of the CRT GTR duo. This is, I believe here, Mark Taylor, the one we didn't get to see last week. We got to see Matthew G. Taylor. So these are the two Taylors that comprise the CRT GTR team. He's now second because Mark Burton has now gone fastest. A 1:31.052. Then Fake Galaxy in third, Reese Humphreys in fourth, and Colin Beattie in fifth, making it a majority Mercedes top 5 here in free practice. Then Stolmeyer now sixth, Oscar Dizzy Oskil of Odin Racing in seventh. We see Matthew G. Taylor here in eighth on his way down to the lineup. In front of him there, you can see one of the Everquip cars, followed by, I believe that is one of the Comac cars up in front. No, actually, that's one of the Humbel cars. That is Samuel Bell. Gold guy in chat at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, is Chase Hamilton from the Freeman sim racing team. Said he would demolish them tonight, but he is on his way back from Silverstone. And we'll be talking more about the proceeds surrounding this weekend's Formula One British Grand Prix in our news segment a little later on today. We see, though, for Taylor in the Triple Eight, that being Matthew G. Taylor, now down to 10th with the recent introduction then of Jamie Curtin, right up in front of him here with Everquip Racing. Then we see the Dizzy Oskil now down to 8th, Stolmeyer to 7th, Beattie to 6th, Sean Moore goes 5th there for Everquip Ferrari. Looking further down the line, Yuya Oya, a driver who put on quite an exceptional performance in Imola to put his team alongside with his teammate Connor Brennan, who I must say delivered on an exemplary defensive performance in Imola. These two now bringing themselves only a single point away from the championship lead in the team's championship, up and ahead Whale Racing. With 106 points, these two on 105. Yuya Oya on his way to the line. Finnish talent in the number 11 Audi, spearheading the charge then. It is a battle of two German juggernauts, Audi and Mercedes. Across the line then went Oya, but no time set as far as it would concern there. Down to the line nearest is the number 46. So if we can, try to go and locate here just before he crosses the line. I believe we may have just missed him at that time. Sean Moore now out of the top 5 because from behind him went the number 21 car. That's Samuel Bell, who we saw him in the background a few times there over the course of these last couple of laps. But now he finds himself positioned up in 4th place. It's worth noting up at the head of that field then, Mark Burton, CRT Team Comac number 57, leading that charge over Mark Taylor of CRT GTR. Then Fake Galaxy of Whale Racing makes third. So it's a CRT front row lockout here in free practice. Now, just around the corner, of course, it will be Quali 1 of today's session. 20 minutes to decide that grid for race 1 of 2 today here in Valencia. The things are shaping up to be rather spicy between quite a fair few teams, and most of them, as it would appear, from the CRT conglomerate. With CRT Team Comac and CRT GTR on that front row. Galaxy across the line stays where he is. We see for Taylor steps ever closer to that leading time in the 555 Nissan GTR. Mark Taylor with a real point to prove in tonight's session. Seeing here, his way down through towards Dewan Corner at turn 2, up in front of him there, one of the Vanguard cars. Now having a glance at it there, I believe that is Tom Stolmeyer. So Guy Rayfield on the other end of the track at the moment. So this is Stolmeyer in the number 911. Making their way up and around Nico Terrell. In towards Angel Nieto Corner, turn 6 coming up here. Oh my goodness, you see how bright that is there? The camera work, it looks like they're driving directly into the sun. I can only imagine what visibility concerns these drivers with over the course of today's session. That may actually really be quite a concerning point for them today. Number 187 across the line a moment ago. That was Guy Rayfield to 6th with Vanguard Motorsports. Getting McLaren ever closer to the chances of a top 5 right now. It would be for the exemption of Nissan, an all-German top 5. But the Nissan, a car that previously went in previous generations in its time in the Australian Touring Car Championship, went by Godzilla in its R32 form during Group A touring car racing, really setting the record straight here against what has been so far a dominant performance by a majority German manufacturer grid in that top 5 from last round, especially Audi and Mercedes. Diving to the pit lane there went Tom Stolmeyer. 133 thousandths to clear over Burton's time. Nothing could have been found there for Taylor, but things are looking especially strong here for that 555. We could be in the midst of somewhat of a double-header qualifying shootout between Burton and Taylor. The battle of the marks, 57 and 555. At the end of free practice then, it would appear to be the case that Mark Burton is fastest in this session. The 888, you can see there, the fellow Nissan of the CRT GTR team. So that would be Matthew G. Taylor, the Taylor twins, as we may choose to dub them at some point. The 555, though, we see here Mark Taylor on his way out on track at the moment. 656 nearest, and that is just not getting any dimmer, is it? Down towards the line, Eduardo Odoni. Following from behind him there, you can see another Mustang barreling down towards the line. I believe that to be, yes, that was Michael Bonar. Number 19 across the line there, 15 for the end of this session, heading up in towards the first quali of 2 today. Nearest to the line, the number 420, so we did see somewhat here of Stinking Rich's Smelly Hippie in Imola, and I can't believe that's a sentence that's come out of my mouth today, but on his way down through Champi Herreros at turn 12 through to turn 13. Here we see on board with the number 420. And still Byers Lonesome, yet to have been joined by teammate Nielsen of the Stinking Rich lineup. Down to the line, though, goes Hippie from 21st. At the end of the session, shoots all the way up the order there to put Lamborghini in the top 5, dethroning their sister car, the Audi R8 of Yuya Oya. And by looks of it there, only by about 60 or so thousandths of a second, so remarkably thin margins. Galaxy to the line stays third at the end of free practice. Bell fourth, but at that front row, it was a marked lockout. As we head into the first qualifying session of 2, it was Mark Burton from Mark Taylor at the end of that free practice session. First out into the fray is the number 994. Sadly, no qualifying predictions for us in tonight's event, but Carlos Dish, the current Drivers' Championship leader and part of the 2 that forms the leading team in the Teams Championship, and one of the drivers of Mercedes-AMG who lead the manufacturers, has quite the heavy boots to fill for tonight's event and won't be looking to disappoint. Of course, the Swiss talent we've seen plenty of in multiple different championships over the last couple of months has been a knockout talent in his rise up to infamy here on this grid. Following on board then with last round's race winner, he'll be our track guide here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. You can see visibility will definitely be a concern off the exit of turn 6 at Angel Nieto, down through turn 7 into Bernat Martinez, so down from the De La Afición corner at turn 7, now through Bernat Martinez in turn 8. And of course, where this really seems to have found its niche in the market of motorcycle racing, that is not to detract from what has been a brilliant campaign in 4 wheels. Up until 2025, did see racing from the GT World Challenge Europe Series, hence why we have it here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, which, fun fact, is currently, I think, as far as the record sets, the most modern interpretation of the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, when this track was added 3 years ago in a 2023 update. Following on board then with Well Racing's Carlos Dish, he'll be our baseline time here in Quali 1. We'll run down towards the line, starting the first of our flying laps today. Worth noting there, you saw it from the brake lights on Dish's car. Was that a little bit of pedal flicker there? That's usually what happens with slightly older rigs as the sensors get dust and hair and dirt trapped in them. Often is the case where that ends up happening. Down through turn 1 then as we go through Aspar in towards Dewan at turn 2, the first of our major overtaking spots on this track today, and we'll talk further on that later during the first of 2 formation laps today. On our way down through turn 3 into Nico Terrell at turns 4 and 5. And this area has given us some fantastic side-by-side racing in the past, back on board with the 994. Now up through to turn 6 at Angel Nieto. I can definitely see that catching someone out over the course of the race with the sunlight in their eyes. Down through De La Afición in towards Bernat Martinez at turn 8. We've seen a fair few incidents kick off in this area of the track on a run up through to turns 9, 10 and 11 at Jaime Masia. Off the exit then of turn 11 up towards Champi Herreros at turn 12. Very sharp right-hander. You can see him hooking all the way out to the left, keeping himself as within a millimetre of the track limits there. He's trying to use absolutely every available inch of the track. Some have called that the esports line in the industry. Down through to turn 14 at Adrian Campos. Down towards the line we go then with Carlos Dish. Very, very spry opening lap from the 994. We'll see if it stays valid. Across the line he goes. The first of our times here, 1:31.290. Nearest to the line from behind him will be the number 92, Matthias Winter of CRT Racing Porsche. 1.9 seconds off the beat. Then from behind is Hippie in the number 420 car. Across the line he goes, but no time set. We then wait to see who'll be next to the line from behind him. It's the number 5, Daniel Comendi. And he's half a second out. Then from across the line we saw there, that's Fake Galaxy, followed by one of the Vanguard cars there. I believe that to be Tom Stolmeyer, and that it is. Across the line from behind him looked to be, if I'm not mistaken, that is Samuel Bell, but no time set. Gordon Reuter to the line there in the number 28. He's down to 7th, though, with Colin Beattie now 6th. From behind, we see one of the 2 ever-equipped Ferraris across the line a moment ago. The 888 following them. That's Matthew G. Taylor. We saw his teammate Mark Taylor up towards the front row at the end of free practice, but Matthew now setting in a 4th fastest time of today's session. Eduardo Odoni across the line a moment ago was momentarily in 6th, now 7th, now 8th. The introduction of Reese Humphries, and then further up the order, Mark Burton. Now fastest in the session, 110 thousandths over Carlos Dish. It's a Mercedes 1-2-3 at this time. We also see the other of the 2 Taylors in this session. This is Mark Taylor. Was up on the front row at the end of free practice, currently just at the back end of the 3rd row behind Kemendi, but ahead of his teammate. Yuya Oya now goes to 4th in the session for Audi Sport. And Audi Sport Team Apex more specifically, alongside teammate Connor Brennan, who we've yet to see a time out of here. I think as I say that, no, sadly, Brennan is in the pit lane. May have spoken a little too soon there. 954 across the line a moment ago. But no time set. Number 92 is nearest, so we got to catch back on board with Matthias Winter. Behind him, the number 420. Now 2nd fastest there, Hippie. A brilliant, brilliant time from the stinking rich number 420. Now 2nd, 625 thousandths out from Carlos Dish, who retakes the fastest time. Galaxy currently 3rd, now up and ahead of Mark Burton. Yuya Oya rounds out the top 5. Daniel Kemendi squeezed from it, now to 6th place. Samuel Bell goes 7th ahead of both Taylors, Mark and Matthew G. The 555 and 888 of CRT GTR now 8th and 9th in today's session. Reese Humphries rounds out the top 10 for the Humbel team. More cars across the line there. The 888 a moment ago. Matthew G. Taylor stays where he is right now. 656 across the line. And in the case of the 656, Eduardo Odoni 12th in his last lap just gone, but we did just see, I believe there was a bit of a leap. Yes, I believe. Oh my, that is getting, I swear that's getting brighter. See for Samuel Bell, now 8th. It's actually here, it was Mark Taylor, who was momentarily up into that top 5. Yuya Oya closes the door on those prospects by about 1/10 of a second. Actually, 100th of a second. My goodness. Super, super close gap there. Number 75 nearest to the line. That'll be for Andre Koch of S3NP Racing. Across the line, though, he stays where he is for the time being. Number 75 there, 21st in the session. From behind him, the 994 and number 19. So that would be for Carlos Dish. 1:30.485, the fastest time of the session thus far. Number 92 across the line. That was for Winter. Now to 11th from 12th, up and ahead of Oned Racing's Oscar Dizzy Oscar, and I swear that is getting brighter every time there up in front of him. Can see is his teammate there at Oned Racing, now out on track to start setting in more times. And this is Bjorn Lars Blank in the number 9 car. He's currently 18th in the session. 13 minutes left to go. A whole new sleuth of cars heading in towards the line there. Leading them was Uttenreuter, now up and ahead of Blank to 18th place, but he is now shoved down to 19th from the cars in behind. The 311, the 46, and the 888 all across the line a moment ago. You see for the 888, the last of those 3 to across the line in that recent pack of cars. He finds himself in the top 10 as it goes Nissan, Mercedes, Nissan, Mercedes. Now we find with Mark Taylor, his teammate, now up to 6th once again. Nissan trying to squeeze a line in here on that top 5. It's worth noting, though, at the front of the field, new fastest time, 1:34.07 from Mark Burton of CRT Team Comac. It is still CRT versus Whale Racing for pole position here in qualifying 1, and it is worth pointing out we are not even 10 minutes in to qualifying 1 today. Going slow, the 994 on the run down towards Adrian Campos. This is Carlos Dish. We saw him over the first lap of this session, but he does gear himself up, just giving himself the space there, allowing the number 19 to get up and ahead of him, so he's not got a lot of traffic in his way onto his next couple of runs. He's 78 thousandths from that fastest time now. From behind him, the number 5, Daniel Kemendi. Or Ferrari currently stands alone as the only Ferrari in that top 10, let alone the top 5. He's 37 thousandths away from Hippie in 4th. From behind, the 995, Fate Galaxy couldn't find a line to squeeze in on that front row. Number 21 across the line a moment ago from behind. That was for Samuel Bell of Humbel Racing. From behind him is that of Tom Stolmeyer, the number 911 of Vanguard. 15th with his teammate Guy Rayfield in 18th. 888 nearest the line. Matthew G. Taylor. Ninth place in that last lap. Then we see Reese Humphries from behind him. The number 12 from 10th stays there. Then from behind him, the 656 of Eduardo Odoni from 17th leaps up to 11th place. So remarkable turnaround there. And the number 57 across the line, that was for Mark Burton. He's still fastest, but not by any further an improvement. 78,000, still the margin between himself and Carlos Dish at the front of the field. Number 1 is nearest, and I believe that is yes for Takanashi, now into 20th. Of S3MP. We saw their teammate Andre Koch now 23rd in the session a moment ago. Now the 0-1 Rika Takanashi 20th in the session as we just step in to that second half of qualifying in a moment's time. Number 112 is across the line from behind them. Oscar Dizzy Oscar Lavonin Racing in 14th. Nearest is the 75. You can really get the semblance. It's somewhat of an onslaught of a session here in the first qualifying. Very busy stuff. North of 25 cars on grid at the moment. And I do believe, yes, we finally get to see the second half of the Stinking Rich team for the first time here. That's Richie Nielsen in the pit lane, number 199. Hopefully we'll get to see him out on track a little later on. Number 92 is nearest. So here's Matthias Winter from 13th. Stays there for CRT Racing Porsche. Number 21 from behind him. Approaching the line, Samuel Bell from 8th. Now up to 7th ahead of Yuya Oya. We see one of the Nissans there in behind. And I believe that is, having a glance, that is the number 555. So that's Mark Taylor. 6th place at the moment. Stays there in the last lap just gone. In terms of valid times, according to the track telemetry, Reese Humphries will be the next up onto the charts. Currently 11th on his way down towards the line from the Humbel team. Across the line there, goes up to 9th. So great hustle so far by Humphries. Now up into the top 10. Mercedes still holding 1, 2, 3 in the session so far. So it's been a very strong open here in Valencia. For Mercedes AMG, currently leading by 16 points in the Manufacturers' Championship. The Mercedes-led team leading the team's championship, that being Whale Racing's Carlos Dish and Fake Galaxy. We can see there the latter of two making their way back out onto the field. It is worth noting during this onslaught, Mark Burton has raised the bar up of what was, 78 thousandths roughly of a second. Now 240 thousandths, 2 tenths, 400ths. The new fastest time, 1:30.245. We saw it was Whale-led dominance in Imola. Could this be the turn of CRT Team Comac? And it is definitely getting brighter now. Goodness gracious me, that is blindingly bright. I can only imagine what's going to be going on for the drivers there. That is brutal. Making our way down towards the line. So nearest the line, number 911. That's for Tom Stolmeyer. 18th in the session. Stays in there behind Jamie Curtin. Then across the line, the 311. That was for Colin Beattie. The second half of 2 in the CRT Team Comac team. Try saying that one 5 times fast. You see for Beattie on his way down through the run of things at Dewan Corner. And I tell you, it is not getting really any brighter out in that section of the track up through, and you'll see it in a moment's time. It is blindingly bright. So my sincerest apologies up and ahead on the run through Angel Nieto. Get a look at this, heading up through. It's so bright. It's so unnecessarily bright in that section of the track. I mean, let's see if we can go and find here with the car approaching that section once again. We've got Yuya Oya here of Audi Sport Team Apex. It's just so unbelievably bright in that section. That is crazy. That's going to have, I would imagine, quite the knock-on when it comes to visibility for these drivers. We'll follow here with Carlos Dish. Get a driver's eye view of things. He's still second in the session. Last lap there was an out lap, so 1:43.12. Currently time to beat 1:34.85 on his way out through turn 2. So we'll go back in here with the number 994. And this is the area that we're greatly concerned about, because you can see how the sunlight hit the track from the external cameras. It was blindingly bright from our point of view. Let's see what it looks like from the drivers. It may not be quite so bad. It's not great. It's not great. That's going to be a visibility concern. Fortunately, they've got those sun strips, but I think the sun's at one of those, you know, when you're sort of driving around the evening time, sort of 7, 8 o'clock, and the sun's just underneath the blockers on your windscreen, and it's still getting in your eyes. I think that's what we're looking at here with some of these drivers. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. Burton across the line. yet to have raised the bar any further over what was 240 thousandths of an improvement. We see for Comendi at this time now squeezed from the top 5. He was the only Ferrari inside of that top 5 for a while, but now we see here from Mark Taylor, 4th in the session, stepping ever closer to the front row, but he's got to get past about 4 tenths worth of a gap between himself and Fake Galaxy, first to get to 3rd place, and then he's got to find an additional, looking here, about 152 thousandths to get up towards Carlos Dish. So there is quite a long road for him to travel upon here. Just over half a second's worth of improvement is cited for him to put himself on the front row. But I wouldn't say it's impossible here. He did wow expectations towards the end of free practice when he was up and alongside Burton. I think this is just the sort of charge up we need from the 555. 5 minutes left to go in Quali 1. Down across the line he goes. No improvement found on that last lap from behind him is Reuter. We see there for the number 28, followed by, I believe that is Rayfield, now 11th in the session, the 187. No, that's, sadly, this is his teammate we saw there in the background, not this one here, but Rayfield is in 11th. That was Tom Stallmeyer. Jeez, that's going to catch me off guard every single time, guaranteed. Bell on his way out of the pit lane at this time. Right now you see both components of the Humbel team, 8th and 9th in qualifying here, and these two find themselves separate by a little under 4 tenths apart. We see recently there for Ferrari's Daniel Comendi, now into the top 5 once again, 200ths over the number 420 Lamborghini of Stinking Rich's Smelly Hippie. And again, it's such a bizarre sentence to say in a professional light. The number 420 now down to 6th place. But not by a long shot here. There is definitely grounds for improvement to be found in the next 4.5 laps as the sun continues to set yonder the horizon here for these drivers. We'll see for Hippie now charging himself up to another run in the last couple of minutes here. We're eyeing about 3 more laps available to him before the end of qualifying 1. Across the line goes Hippie. From behind him, the number looking there, 21. That was, sorry, not 21, number... just having a glance there. I need to get my eyes checked. 81. Yeah, definitely need to get my eyes checked. And that was for Giuseppe Amari of Dynamic Racing Solution, I believe. Simulation, not Solution. That would sound like a company name, but no. Dynamic Racing Simulation, number 81 of Amari. 25th in the session thus far. Last of the session, then, there's a driver we've still been waiting to see on track, Richie Nielsen. The second half of 2 at Stinking Rich. We've seen his teammate, the number 420, making his way down through what looks to be the core of the sun there at turn 6. The 57 nearest on a valid flyer. So here comes Burton off of what has been an exceptional session here for CRT Team Comac. Can the bar be raised? Not on that last lap just gone. We see Comendi in from behind, recently up into that top 5. We do find ourselves now spread with 3 manufacturers in the top 5 at the moment, but it is Mercedes 1, 2, and 3. So it looks like AMG's dominance of the Manufacturers' Championship looks to continue here in Valencia. The 75 across the line a moment ago. And then following is the 995 and the 888. So we'll see for the second of 2 Nissans there, Matthew G. Taylor. He's just astray there of the top 10, about 110 thousandths between himself and Reese Humphreys. Number 81 nearest, so... Here comes Giuseppe Amari. From behind him, the 187 of Guy Rayfield. Rayfield's still looking for a top 10, and he finally has it there on that last lap just gone, but he's got two and just under 3 minutes left in this session, so there is still plenty of opportunity that could fall away from him. So far then, Vanguard gets up into the top 10. We do find McLaren finally in on the top 10 on this grid today. Number 911 nearest, so... Rayfield's teammate, Tom Stallmeyer, from 19th, stays where he is for the time being. From behind him, I believe that is the 656 of Eduardo Odoni. It's curious to take away from all of this because Ford find themselves with the most advantage on the grid. That much was understood under BOP listings, but right now, the fastest of the Fords, Eduardo Odoni, scrapes just outside of the top 15 as Mercedes remain unfazed by their changes under BOP today, and a new fastest time by Burton to boot there, 1:30.170. Now 315 thousandths in the lead on qualifying. Carlos Dish may have his work cut out for him if he means to maintain that winning streak away from Imola, with 2 races up for grabs tonight, 2 possible wins, I should say, not rins. I'm not sure what that means. You He still has a chance. We do see recent improvement from his teammate, Fate Galaxy. Not enough to supersede Deitch's position on track. These two separate by 45 thousandths of a second. The last lap just gone, 995, I believe. Yes, just pulling in beyond the point of no return, so that will be the end of his qualifying session. Fate Galaxy back into the pit lane for Carlos Deitch. He's got one more shot here in Valencia. Can he go up towards pole position, being the real question? We'll find out in about a minute and 10 seconds. Number 911 is nearest, so let's go to catch on board with Tom Stallmeyer, a Vanguard, on his way out of Champi Herreros, down through turn 13 into Adrian Campos corner. Stallmeyer nearest. But he's diving back into the pit lane, so Stallmeyer throws in the towel there. Both Vanguard cars inside of the top 20. That's satisfactory for them. O'Doney to the line. Then the number 11 following from them. O'Doney, one more lap to go. Number 11 nearest. Yuya Oya from 7th across the line to an improvement, but not enough to go up into 6th. From behind them, the number 21, 57, and 12. So that's both the Humble cars. In between them is the leading Comac of Mark Burton. A little bit of a wobble there through turn 1 at Aspar corner, but so far steady for Mark Burton. It's been a breezy qualifying session for him here in Quali 1 of 2 today. Leading the charge by just over 0.3 of a second to Carlos Deitch. You can see rocket his way out from turn 12. Gets the back end just tapped a little bit there through the run of Champi Herreros. Down towards turn 14 we go. Can it be pole position? It certainly looked like a very fast third sector, but let's see if it all chains together up positive here for Carlos Deitch. Down to the line, 315 thousandths to clear across the line. It was so close for him there, but 65 thousandths between himself and Mark Burton gives that pole position, by looks of it, over to the 57. A remarkable end to that first of 2 qualifying sessions. We've still a few more drivers, though, to see down towards the line. O'Doney looking at chances of a top 15. He'd have to get past Dizzy Oskal, I should say, and Winter. Much like we saw for the Mercedes there. A little tickle on the rear axle off the exit of turn 12. Somewhat of a catch curb just off the exit of Champi Herreros into turn 13. Turn 11. Not turn 11. Car number 11 is behind off of turn 14. O'Doney to the line, then from behind him, Yuya Oya. O'Doney at the end of the session, 17th in qualifying 1. Yuya Oya of Audi Sport Team Apex stays in 7th. Then coming to the line, number 21, Samuel Bell. Then from behind him, his teammate, Reese Humphreys. Bell 8th. Humphreys at the end of this session up to 11th ahead of Matthew G. Taylor. Just outside of that top 10. He's 400ths away from Guy Rayfield at the end of this quali session. Number 19 across the line there. And for Michael Bonar, 19th for the end of qualifying 1. It's pole position then for Mark Burton of CRT Team Comac. CRT's first pole of season 2. Carlos Deitch makes P2, Fate Galaxy P3 for a Mercedes 1-2-3 qualifying lockout. Up and ahead of Mark Taylor in the 555 Nissan. Daniel Comendi rounds out the top 5. We'll get a look into the grid in a moment's time. But before we do, looking back in towards the regulations for today's event, coming away from Quali 1, 25 minutes of racing to follow here as Race 1 looms just around the corner. Then we'll run it back all over again in Quali 2 and Race 2. And it's worth noting, again, no mandatory pit stops on either of these 2 races as far as our knowledge has been led to extent. Spoilers ahead for anyone who has not been present or has seen any updates surrounding today's British GP sprint race in Formula 1 as we head up in towards the new segment for today. And with that warning fairly given, now taking a look in towards the new segment, and it has been a rather interesting weekend so far with the British Grand Prix coming up around the corner tomorrow, but with the sprint race having happened today, it's been flying form for Andrea Kimi Antonelli of Mercedes-AMG, away from what was pole position for 7-time Formula 1 world champion Lewis Hamilton at his home race here at Silverstone. It was Antonelli to supersede in the British GP sprint, and then once more goes on to pole position for the British Grand Prix tomorrow. Antonelli, for all intents and purposes this season, seems nigh unstoppable. The wonder kid talent of Mercedes-AMG, a real tough call when he was first signed to the team. A huge development gamble has paid off with a talent unlike anything we've seen, I would say, since Max Verstappen made his debut to Red Bull in 2016. This is going to be a very interesting season ahead for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Of course, tomorrow at around, I think, about 3 o'clock local is the 2026 Formula 1 British Grand Prix live from Silverstone. But if you're joining us here on TRTN, a few hours later than that, 6:30 p.m. BST, Season 6, Round 7 of the NLRL Sunday League over in Imola. And speaking of TRTN, our latest article of news then pertains to a number of special announcements for new events to come up fairly soon. We're in the final stages on signing on a few extra new clients. You'll be seeing what I can tease to you so far, possible future content on Le Mans Ultimate, content to come from the Nürburgring, and content to come from NASCAR. Those are the three major articles we have, and we're still locking everything down. Once we have more information to hand that we can make official, you'll know about it here live on TRTN. Taking a look then onto grid 1 of 2 here for race 1 of 2 on Season 2, Round 2, the Continental Racing League GT3 Teams Championship. It's Mark Burton of CRT Team Comac on pole position for the first time this season. On a Mercedes 1-2-3 qualifying lockout, Carlos Disch, last round's race winner, starts on the front row here on race 1. Behind him, Fake Galaxy in P3. Mark Taylor makes 4th ahead of Daniel Comendi in 5th, with Smelly Hippie in 6th. Yuya Oya makes 7th ahead of Samuel Bell in 8th. Connor Brennan makes 9th, and Guy Rayfield rounds out the top 10. All in all, taking a look through the amount of manufacturers present there, we're looking in the scope of some 5, I believe, there, with Mercedes, Nissan, Ferrari, Lamborghini, 6 actually, Audi and McLaren. Further down the line, Humphreys in 11th, Matthew G. Taylor in 12th, Moore in 13th, BD 14th, Winter in 15th, O'Doney in 16th place. Further down the line, Kürten in 17th, Bonar in 18th, Stallmeyer 19th, and Blank rounds out the top 20. Amari in 21st, Takanashi in 22nd, Udenreuter in 23rd, Christoph in 24th, Koch in 25th, and Nielsen rounds out a 26-car grid. 13 on either side of which for the start of today's session as we get on in towards the formation lap. Going live then on with the number 57, Mark Burton of CRT Team Comac. Fires up a 6.3-litre beast beneath the bonnet on what is a Mercedes 1-2-3 start. Will it be a Mercedes 1-2-3 finish? 25 minutes against the clock will tell us different here on the start of race 1. Following on with the 57, it's worth noting then our overtaking spots on track. It's also worth noting they're starting from the pit lane from 22nd originally on track is that of Giuseppe Amari of Dynamic Racing Simulation. The Mercedes starting from the paddock. Major overtaking spots. We've just left the first among them here at Dewan Corner, turn 2. Then on the run down through to Nico Terrell at turns 3, 4, and 5. That represents another staging point for possible overtakes. It's a very close fighting area of the track owing to its history in motorcycle racing. It's a very flowing design for these cars. Gives them plenty of opportunities of sort of start, stop, start, stop. And that's what allows them to go side by side so often. We also know Oned Racing's Dizzy Oskal is now starting from what appears to be 30th, but he is actually starting from the paddock on this 27-car grid. Now 13 on one side, 14 on the other as far as things concerned, but with 2 from the pit lane. Does leave us here 12 on one side, 13 on the other on what is currently a 25-car starting grid with 2 from the pit lane to make 27 in total. Another overtaking spot down here at Bernat Martinez at turn 8. Then on the run back up through the middle section of the track as it loops back in on itself here down through turn 9 and 10. Then into turn 11, this sharp hairpin right. Now the cameras don't do it justice from the outside, so having a look on board here with Mark Burton, you'll see the run in towards turn 11, Jaime Masia, parabolic hairpin right. So it's actually loose on entry, then tightens up past the apex there, snaps in on the drivers, and that can leave you high and dry. And if you're fighting side by side, it does allow quite some variation here, as you can hear the 57 warming the tyres up by getting up and down on the brakes. Up through turn 12 at Champi Herreros. It's down to turns 13 and 14. That'll see our next overtaking opportunities on today's event. So to summarise there, turn 2, turns 4 and 5, turn 8, turn 11, and the possibility of turn 14 on your major overtaking spots here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo here in the Valencian community in Spain. Along the Spanish East Coast, we make our way down towards the line here for Season 2, Round 2, the Continental Racing League. Down towards the line we go then, 27 cars in attendance, 25 on track, 13 on one side, and 12 on the other for the first of 2 races here. And the green flag flies. We are now green and racing here in Valencia. A brilliant start then from the grid right away and getting the run down towards turn 1 we go then with Mark Burton in towards Aspar Corner. Gets up and away there from the 994, but he's still alongside on the run through turn 1. Out wide goes Carlos Disch. Rejoins there in behind Burton. A brilliant getaway from the 57 in towards turn 2. It's 3 Mercedes alongside, but it's contact in the background. Comendi was hit there by Mark Taylor. And we see spilling out from all of it a huge pile-up of cars now squeezing in with one another. Samuel Bell sneaking on up through the mix there. You can see him behind him is his teammate Reese Humphries as the two go side by side with Conor Brennan down through Nico Terrell corner. Things got ugly on the run down through Dewan for the first time, but benefiting from it has been Bell and Humphries here, now laying siege on Conor Brennan. We have a yellow flag out, the number 66 in trouble, and so too is the number 199. We see here further down the line, this is the number 911, but looking to try and catch on here with Conor Brennan if possible, as those yellow flags persist for the 66. We're heading now up through towards Jaime Masia. Brilliant getaway so far then from Mark Burton. You can see Kemendi and Hippie fighting up and ahead. We're watching with Conor Brennan as he now finds himself sandwiched in between Samuel Bell and, as it was standing with the case, Guy Rayfield. Getting a look back up at the front of that field though. Just see here Rayfield v Humphries going on during this time, but a brilliant getaway for Mark Burton. Exemplary stuff there right off the bat. So as it stands after that first lap, Mark Burton leads over Carlos Dichfeit Galaxy in third, Yuya Oya in fourth, Daniel Kemendi rounds out the top five. Behind him, Smelly Hippie in sixth, Samuel Bell in seventh, Conor Brennan in eighth place with Guy Rayfield in ninth. Mark Taylor now rounds out the top 10 up and ahead of Reese Humphries. Sean Moore in 12th with Matthew G. Taylor we saw was, I believe, it might have been Mark, sorry, my mistake there. That was part of that turn 2 incident. We see though for Matthew G. Taylor was looking his way on the inside of Sean Moore. Behind him is Colin Beattie and Moore's teammate Jamie Curtin. Michael Bonar and Eduardo O'Doney look to battle here, but up in front, Curtin v Beattie. CRT Team Comac versus Everquip Racing. Down through to Nico Terrell. Behind them, the two Mustangs as mentioned before, Bonar and O'Doney. Worth noting there for Michael Bonar, up 3 positions from the race start. 19th in qualifying, 16th now. Stallmeyer 18th, Takanashi into the top 20 there. We do note trouble, I believe here for the number 9, having fallen down. Bjorn Lars Blank of Onid Racing, now in behind the number 28 of Udenreuter. Matthias Winter into the top 20 there. We see for Takanashi fighting with O'Doney and Stallmeyer. Up in front, as it would appear to be the case, Jamie Curtin now fends off from Michael Bonar. Heading up through to Jaime Masia. Now the cameras, as I mentioned, don't do it justice, and it missed there the start, but now we caught the end of an incident between Jamie Curtin and Michael Bonar. The number 54 turnaround at Jaime Masia. Fortunately, it was a case where the number 19 held off, didn't want to gain the position, so there was somewhat of a gentleman's agreement there, but both of them have lost significant ground due to that incident in the opening 5 minutes of racing. Looking back up the order here to see the current scope of action in the top 5. Lamborghini versus Ferrari, two fated manufacturers in the automotive world. Lamborghini that has existed in direct counterculture to Ferrari. And Hippie versus Kemendi for the top 5 at the moment. The Ferrari 296 versus the Lamborghini Huracan. Or more specifically, the Huracan Evo 2. Behind them, Samuel Bell. Up in front, worth noting here, the gap closing in between the two leading Mercs, and it is, I genuinely think, brighter there down through turn 6. That's Angel Nieto corner. Mark Burton leads over Carlos Diech. It's still a Mercedes 1-2-3. Yuya Oya is closing on Fake Galaxy. It is worth noting here, the Finnish talent has really got the burners on since the start of today's race, with the sun bearing down on them here. 17 degrees, though, in spite of the bright and sunny conditions here in Spain. In behind, you can see there, Hippie on the inside on Kemendi. This is for the top 5. Between the 420 and the 5 of the exit of turn 11 in towards turn 12. It looks like Hippie's got the ground for it. In towards Champi Herreros. From the outside, though, goes Daniel Kemendi. He's on the curbs, but holds off. Nearly in trouble himself there if he kept the hammer down, and he does lead Samuel Bell to his outside. Bell way late on the brakes there at turn 14 at Adrian Campos. Couldn't get the ground, but that was an exciting little jaunt of action between Kemendi and Hippie. With Hippie now up into 5th after his run of things at Jaime Masia. Worth noting in the background here, ongoing fight, Matthew G. Taylor versus Sean Moore. Everquip versus CRT GTI. In the background, you can see that was Udenreuter out wide. Looking for the inside, then Matthew G. Taylor in towards Aspar at turn 1. 888 on the inside, 46 on the outside. Will there be counter from Moore? Not on this occasion through Dewan. Great action so far between those two after the first 5 minutes of racing. We are seeing here Samuel Bell creep up onto this fight between Kemendi and Hippie. Behind him, Conor Brennan gets a little bit squirrely there off the exit of Nico Terrell. Up through turn 6 we go then at Angel Nieto. It's worth noting for Brennan, he's got present company involved. There behind him is Guy Rayfield and Mark Taylor. Then Reese Humphries a little further down the line. It's worth noting here, actually not Colin Beattie, my mistake there. There is quite a fair deal of trouble. I believe was for the number 19 there, Michael Bonar, now down to 23rd on this grid. Bonar in trouble. He now falls in behind what appears to be Amari and Udenreiter. In a recent mix-up there, the back of the grid, heading up in through to Bernat Martinez. Michael Bonar out wide. 6 minutes into this race. Looking here, super close action. We're spotting between Winter and Takanashi for 14th place. The S3NP number 1 versus the CRT Racing Porsche number 92. Right behind them, the 656 Eduardo Odoni with Ford. We see that Takanashi leaps through turn 14, but loses a bit of steam, allowing the Porsche, Matthias Winter, to creep up on their left-hand side. He'll be to the inside if he can hold his ground here in towards turn 1. This does give him premier access to that run up towards turn 2, but he's got to keep this one fully committed there. Otherwise, it's Takanashi's position to gain. Up through Aspar we go. The number 1 washes over there the right-hand side, but there was still a little bit of space between themselves. Winter on the inside in towards Doohan. A little, I think that was a tiny little bump there between Winter and Takanashi off the exit of Doohan. In through to turn 3 on the run now towards Nico Terrell. Great move by Matthias Winter. Now up, as it would appear, to 14th place. Getting a look in here with Guy Rayfield as he pressures Reese Humphries for the last of the top 10 positions. Up in front of them, Mark Taylor v Connor Brennan. Among the closest fights in that top 10 at this time. And behind them, of course, still the ongoing fight between Takanashi and Winter. But having a glance here does reveal Eduardo Odoni in the mix, more so than ever. The number 656 down through, oh my goodness, there, down through what was Della Aficion in towards Bernat Martinez. Odoni out wide. Is he going to fall in behind that of Bjorn Lars Blank of Onad Racing? Does appear to be the case there on the run through to turns 9 and 10. But up towards turn 11, we'll see. He did keep the foot pinned in there, so Odoni holds. Takanashi still falling away there from Winter. Taylor v Brennan. This is certainly one on the cards to watch here. We'll go to catch on board with that 555. Looking up at the head of the field, 1.3 seconds here between Mark Burton and Carlos Deege as part of that Mercedes 1-2-3 at the moment. It has been an exemplary start thus far in race 1 of 2. Nearly 10 minutes in already here in Valencia. The number 57, a great start indeed. Looking here, Humphries v Rayfield. Now this is a curious one because not only does Reese Humphries get front row tickets to the fight up in front between Connor Brennan and Mark Taylor, but he's also involved in a fight himself with Guy Rayfield. Scorned from outside of that top 10. He won't be the most happy to see himself out of it. Udenreiter under siege here from Colin Beattie in the 311. Right behind him is Vasil Hristov. Hristov going for the inside there at Doohan, but couldn't find any ground for him. We see here Guy Rayfield in hot pursuits down through De La Aficion in towards Bernat Martinez. Let's watch on board here just a moment with the 187 McLaren. Currently then in that fight for 10th place, and I'll run down through turn 11 at Jaime Masia. Up in front is the still ongoing fight between Taylor and Brennan for 8th place on track. Through to Champi Herreros, turn 12. Easy section to get caught out in. We saw there, it has slowed the Mercedes down quite a fair deal. There's yellow flags, and it's for Michael Bonar, the number, sorry, not the number 19, but no, it is the number 19. It's the number 19 and another car, the 199, if I'm not mistaken. Taking a look way down the order, Richie Nielsen was caught up in a prang there with the number 19 of Michael Bonar. I believe this is the Stranger Team Mustang, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. Recent troubles then for the number 19. We're back in the green flag conditions here in Valencia, but there has been a lot of trouble out back for quite a fair few of these drivers. Looking here at Connor Brennan. He's got Mark Taylor all on his rear bumper. That 555 hounding him for 8th place during this time. Now, I just want to quickly go and catch on board because we did see moments of it in the background was the ongoing fight surrounding Eduardo Odoni and I believe it was Matthias Winter. As you can see here for Takanashi has regained that position for 14th. It is now 2.5 seconds in the lead over it. We see here for Mark Taylor just quickly as he does spy an inside line there off of Connor Brennan and a tiny bit of oversteer from the number 10 off the exit of turn 8. It's starting to open up doors here for the CRT GTR number 555. through Jaime Mas. Here we go. Meanwhile, up at the front of that field, the 994 and the 57 just in a world of their own at this time. Few, if any, can separate Mark Burton from Carlos Dish. Watching here, though, as we could be seeing Mark Taylor make a move in the 555. He's currently fighting then for 8th place with Connor Brennan. Number 75 there, I believe, is back into the paddock. Or is, no, I believe it is in the paddock there. Number 75. And a reluctant end for Andre Koch, the S3NP number 75 Ferrari, his teammate was Rika Takanashi, still ongoing in that fight up ahead. Matthias Winter lunge for the inside at Aspar for Mark Taylor, but he's vulnerable to a counter-attack here by Connor Brennan up towards Dewan Corner. Brennan goes earlier onto the brakes in towards Dewan Corner, but still holds his ground from the inside. Taylor now falls in behind, getting a look here on the third-person cameras. On the run down through turn 3. Great counterplay here by Connor Brennan to retake that 8th place spot. That shows great affinity of machine there. While he's had a few stability troubles with that Audi, he's really able to show its proper colours on the run now up through turn 6 as we cross the event horizon, I believe there. Was ridiculously bright. Mark Taylor still fighting, I should say, for that 8th place spot. Connor Brennan on a world-class defence thus far. Having a glance in here, this is with the number 28 fighting with Vasil Christoph, the number 66 up in front of him here. This is with the number 28 car of, I believe this is Fabian Ottenreuter. I'll have to double check. Yes, it is Fabian Ottenreuter in the number 28. Worth noting, 54 in trouble. There was a yellow flag out there, now falling in behind the number 81 car of Giuseppe Amari was that of Jamie Curtin. Watching here where Fabian Ottenreuter runs wide, though, at turn 8, so the chances to continue fighting with Vasil Christoph is starting to dissipate. 199 in trouble. We do have a proper yellow flag there. Right at the halfway on this race today. I thought I saw an incident there, and yes, I did. No, I'm not crazy. That was the 66 out wide. I thought I was going a little bit stir-mad, but now the number 28 stranded at the roadside, and I believe it was to let the 66 back out in front. So apologies there for what has been a very confusing state of affairs to monitor the rest of this, as we do note the emergence of a fight here for third between Yuya Oya and Fate Galaxy. There is also the ongoing fight here, Mark Taylor v Connor Brennan. Further down the line, we have Rayfield v Humphreys, which is going on right behind them as it stands at the moment. The run up through turn 6, we can see there that Taylor is looking to get hands-on with this approach towards a fight now. We have Connor Brennan. He's got the run down towards Bernat Martinez as we're halfway through on today's race. Watching here with Connor Brennan, that fight for 8th place takes a broad new chapter, as it is worth noting another slip up from these two, as we can see right now, is going to invite in the fight going on behind between Rayfield and Humphrey. So the last 3 of the top 10 there clashing with the 11th place car in with the 187 McLaren of Guy Rayfield, looking to fight his way back up into that top 10. Things are getting very, very close there further down the line. Meanwhile, up towards the top end of the field, we do note here in the last lap was about 3 tenths worth of a loss for Yuya Oya against Fate Galaxy in their fated fight for third, making their way out through turn 1 at Aspar. Glancing around the field then to see where the nearest fights may be coming from, we get another angle here. This is where Reese Humphreys on board at the moment, then with the number 12 of Humbel. It's difficult quite exactly where to place Reese Humphreys. Is he defending 10th place? Is he attacking 9th? Or is he trying to leapfrog up towards 8th? He's a man simply in the middle of it all. So far, so good for the number 12. 10 minutes coming up on left to go here in race 1. Up through turn 6 we go. Nissan, Audi, Mercedes and McLaren all fighting to stand on 8th place. More on with them later on. Taking a look here, Colin Beattie versus Giuseppe Amari for 19th. See, right in behind them is Jamie Curtin, looking to try and get his way back up into the top 20 at this time. In real trouble for the 54 today. 187, Guy Rayfield, Vanguard Motorsports, number 187, looking to find his way back up into that top 10. I believe did start in the top 10, but right now hangs out behind in 11th. It's a desperate fight from his angle. You see Conor Brennan hemorrhaging ground away from Mark Taylor. I think now that Taylor's got clear wind in front, that Nissan is really able to take off, especially down that opening straight. He's left Conor Brennan to the mercy of Reece Humphries and Guy Rayfield. We've seen for Brennan, he's been a very, very solid defender. We saw that out through Imola, was able to fight his way through the field to deliver a solid result for his team, with his teammate Yuya Oya up in the top 5 by the end of that race. It put these two of the Audi Sport Team Apex line up second in the team's championship by a single point off of Whale Racing today. Now it looks like that gap from where they're positioned here in race 1 is likely to grow, but of course we still have Quali 2 and race 2 to fend off with. And as far as we've seen for events which have had multiple races on the same day, it is, again, and we spoke about this many a time here on TRTN, a bit of a coin toss on what exactly do we expect to get over race 2. Hippie v Commendy. And that's still ongoing. I would like to point out and commend these two for that much, because these two have been, for near enough the entirety of today's race, fighting for that 5th place spot. We saw the move by Hippie on Commendy not too long ago. The 420 now 7/10 over the Ferrari behind, continues to hold his ground. Now taking a look at some of the closest fights on track at the moment, we do note, of course, the elephant in the room being Brennan, Humphries and Rayfield towards the back end there of the top 10. Further behind them, though, Winter and Odoni now take up helm of fighting as they try to catch back up to Rika Takahashi in the number 1. Also way down the line is Amari v Curtin going on during this time as well. DRS versus Everquip. You see here, this is the unfortunate disposition of Matthias Winter in the number 92 car, is the fact that in terms of rotation, he's roughly on par there with Takahashi's Ferrari up in front, but in terms of the straight line, he's faster than neither the Ferrari nor the Ford, so he's really awkwardly squeezed in on that opening straight. It's only here until we get down through Sector 1 where the Ferrari and the Porsche are able to separate a line up and away from the Mustang of Eduardo Odoni behind them. This is currently the fight for 14th place we're seeing here between Takahashi and Winter. Now, we saw the exchange that brought Winter up over Takahashi, but we didn't see the returning blow there. It did appear to be the case that there was some trouble for Matthias Winter, having brought him down the order there, now behind the number 1 once again. Down through here, we see super close between Takahashi and Winter for 14th, and that does open the door up tremendously so there for Eduardo Odoni to step up and along with. We see, though, nearly side-by-side into Champi Herreros with 6.5 minutes to spare in race 1. It's been stellar action thus far here in Valencia, and as we mentioned at the start of the broadcast, it's a track that simply doesn't disappoint. It is going to be tremendous to see what race 2 holds ahead of us here, because race 1 has already given us quite the treat, with many different fights going on at the same time here. Having a glance over at some of those fights does reveal a recent chapter now with Commendy up in front of Hippie. We see up in front of Commendy, though, is Hippie's teammate, the 199 of Richie Nielsen, moves over to one side there at Angel Nieto to allow his teammate and the car he's currently fighting, the number 5 of Daniel Commendy, on through. Down the line, Rayfield v Humphries takes on new life here as Brennan, now 2 seconds in the clear over Reece Humphries, is able to breathe a sigh of relief. But yes, he's lost that 8th place off to Mark Taylor. He's still in the top 10, not currently under siege from the 2-pronged defensive from behind. And of course, the elephant in the room, Winter v Takahashi, down here in the top 15. Number 1 versus the number 92 up and around Angel Nieto corner. On the run down through to De La Afición and Bernat Martinez, turns 7 and 8. We see Eduardo Odoni still along with them at this time, the 656 Mustang. Front row tickets to the fight. Any slip they make is his direct benefit in today's event. Having a glance in here to see on the prowl, catching up towards Commendy. Hippie on the charge. 4 extra cylinders over the Ferrari in front of him. But he is going toe-to-toe with one of Ferrari's best modern engines. V6, and that Ferrari 296 comes from the same lineage of engines that has given us the engine in the Ferrari 499P, a car that went on to take the Le Mans 24-hour win on debut to the Le Mans Hypercar category in the World Endurance Championship, and then went on to win another 2 times across Ferrari's own factory team and their privateer AF Corsa group in the last couple of years. This year, however, that went over to Toyota with their new TR010 in the hypercar category. Regardless, though, we are looking at one of the biggest development gambles of all time for Ferrari to swap to a V6 twin turbo, but it has been one that has delivered on one of the most competitive packages in their recent history, and a worthy successor of a lineage now left behind from the 488 and 458 in the V8 era for Ferrari. Up and around turn 12, the number 5 starting to understeer here as the tyres get on, even under 25 minutes of racing, with the drivers going this flat out on what is such an aggressive 25-minute super sprint. Those Pirellis will be pushed right to the limit, even in spite of weather not playing a huge aspect, as it normally does here in Valencia. In our last couple of visits, it's been a lot hotter than this, upwards of well north of 30 degrees on track surface temperature. Today, though, only 17 degrees Celsius, so quite cool as opposed to the, I would say, hellish landscape we're normally presented with tyre-wise here in Valencia. Taking a look further down the line to see recent updates now, sees Winter ahead of Takanashi for 14th place, so their fight continues on. Meanwhile, Rayfield and Humphreys still clash for 10th place, but no update yet on progression in that fight. We see behind them the 199 of Richie Nielsen. Down through here to Angel Nieto. Not Angel Nieto, sorry, Nico Terrell, now to Angel Nieto. From turns 4 and 5 into turn 6. You see there, that was trouble for Rayfield. He over-rotated from turn 5, so now through turn 6 has lost tremendous ground off to Reese Humphreys. Up at the front of that field, we see here Hippie and Kimendi still fighting on. Meanwhile, Yuya Oya stranded out by his lonesome. And I should note, actually, hang on a tick here. What happened to Fate Galaxy? That is a great question. What happened to Fate Galaxy? I think that's a disconnect. The 995, we didn't note any incident for him too recently here, and now we can't find him on the grid. I would say it's liable to consider the option that that was a disconnect from one of 2 at the Whale Racing team. So that's not been a great start to things, but of course the beauty of this session regulations today does find it to where if you can rejoin in towards qualifying, quali 2 specifically, the Fate Galaxy will have a chance to turn the tide. But so far it now rests on the shoulders of Carlos Dish, much similar to what it did in Imola, but this time far worse because Galaxy's not had the opportunity to make his way back up into that top 10 as he did in Imola. Made his way to 8th by the end of that race, stands 8th in the championship now, but this has been a horrible turn for the 995 today. Also note there was disconnect 4, just having a glance as well. Never mind, I had to just quickly update that one as well. Hippie getting ever closer here to Kimendi. 477 thousandths in their last interval. Now represents one of the closest fights on track. The other being Mark Taylor versus Samuel Bell. And as we've just heard there, the leader, Mark Burton, is on the final lap looking for his first win of the season here in Season 2. Mercedes will continue their winning streak, but with 1.5 seconds between last round's race winner and a possible race winner to be here in Valencia, it's all down to the wire between Burton and Dish. Yuya Oya has been promoted to a podium here. Solid turn of events for the Audi Sport Team Apex lineup. His teammate Connor Brennan still holds on to a top 10 position behind. You can see Kimendi v Hippie on this final lap of racing. So it is quite a remarkable thing to see just how close that top 5 and the top 10 by proxy has been over the course of this race. Short and sweet here in Valencia. Going to catch on board though if we can with Mark Burton. As we do note many fights now, Sean Moore versus Matthias Winter for 12th place as things get even further up through the order into this last lap of racing. But let's go to catch on board if we can here with the leading 57 Mercedes. just before we get to the end of this race. So taking a look at those fights, Hippie v Comendi down through to Bernat Martinez, and then we see from Mark Taylor still pursuing Samuel Bell. Then, of course, was the elephant in the room we saw right onto the start of this last lap was for that of Moore v Winter. But let's go to catch on board with the CRT Team Comac number 57. Mark Burton makes his way down towards the line here, out of Adrian Campos at turn 14. The checkered flag is out here at the end of race 1 for the first time in Season 2. CRT Team Comac's Mark Burton wins in Valencia. A brilliant, brilliant result then for the CRT Team Comac lineup. Burton and Beattie will be delighted after today's event. Race 1 goes to the number 57, but now the weight of expectation could not be higher for Mark Burton at the end of race 1, because now he's got to do it all over again to get pole position again away from Carlos Dish, and then to hold another race win in his hands by the end of today. A great result then for Burton. Dish in 2nd, Yuya Oya in 3rd, Comendi 4th, Hippie in 5th. Bell in 6th, Taylor in 7th, Brennan in 8th, Humphreys 9th, Rayfield in 10th. Matthew G. Taylor down to the line there for 11th. Sean Moore still holds his ground up and away from Matthias Winter, and we are quite delighted here to have caught on board with these four as they go all the way down to the wire. Moore of Everquip Racing holds on to 12th, Winter to 13th, Takanashi to 14th, Odoni to 15th. Stallmeyer looking at 16th place behind him, Bjorn Lars Plank of Oned Racing looking at 17th. Colin Beattie, teammate of Mark Burton. Number 311 down towards the line then. The CRT Team Comac number 311, 18th with his teammate. First at the end of today's race, Jamie Curtin to the line, 19th. Giuseppe Amari to round out the top 20 behind him. Oscar Dizzy-Oscar of Oned Racing, number 112. Michael Bonar nearest to the line. Andre Koch finishes 26th. Bonar looking at 22nd at the end of race 1. Down to the line goes the number 19 to finish in today's event. But having a look in here, what a result it has been today as the final result reels in. Mark Burton wins in race 1 here in Valencia. A brilliant start to the doubleheader. The first time here on Season 2, the first double sprint of the season. Gives CRT Team Comac an easy break here up and away from Whale Racing, but they still hold podiums courtesy of Carlos Dish. Mark Burton wins with the fastest lap, so extra points there up for grabs for the number 57. I'd say some MVP performances in there. I'd say you'd be looking at, if I've had to take a guess here, I think Mark Taylor would definitely be on the rise for it. They had a bit of an upset start to that race, but fought his way back up through the field. Of course, Mark Burton to hold off Carlos Dish is a very solid performance. We saw some great fighting further down the line. Winter v Takanashi was one of the highlights there as well. We also got to see from Comendi and Hippie. Great fight there between two of the most notorious manufacturing rivals in Italian automotive history. Ferrari v Lamborghini, a tale as old as time, and it continues here in the cyberspace that is Assetto Corsa Competizione, the virtual world, giving rise to what is a very real rivalry between the Prancing Horse and the Raging Bull. At the end of race 1 then, taking a look in towards the listings on the event format, we do find ourselves now facing off against another qualifying session similar to what we saw about 25 minutes ago. Following on from that, another 25 minutes of racing here in Valencia before the end of round 2 of the championship. Taking a look at the road ahead for us here on the calendar for this season. After today's event, we will head into what is going to be a very bizarre first for us today as we head on in towards another qualifying session here. Quali 2 now underway, but it's a very tepid start. The grid still reeling from the whiplash of race 1. And whilst we wait for movement from the paddock, we see that's one of the S3MP cars first out among the fray. Let's go to catch on board if we can here with the Ferrari. I believe that was, if I'm not mistaken, yes, was Rika Takanashi. He's fighting with Matthias Winter in the top 20 earlier in race 1. Now they're first out among the fray. And whilst we follow on board with Takanashi, taking a look at the road ahead now, as some of you may be aware, we will sadly not be available to cover round 5 of the championship in Bathurst on August 1st. However, we will be available for all other rounds of the championship. So our next run will be to round 3 of the series, where we head on July 11th to Austin, Texas, at the Circuit of the Americas, home of the United States Grand Prix. And it's going to be for a bizarre first for us, because this is going to be the first time ever we've seen COTA, a track normally we see in the wet across all of its various constituencies and championships, even on and off the screen here in the virtual world on ACC. But we're going to see it in the wet. That is going to be a curious one. A track that's already
somewhat of a Marmite disposition among fan opinion and driver opinion alike for its track limits and just how strict it is for GT, which is bizarre when you think any of the other championships in the real world that race at COTA do not have it anywhere near as hard, especially not the local series like NASCAR. But I suppose that's more a product of circumstance. Try and see a NASCAR take a normal corner as opposed to one of these and draw your comparisons there. But that's going to be a 70-minute race like we saw in Imola for round 3 of the championship. That's on July 11th next week. The week after that, we head to Zandvoort on round 4 of the championship. Then you won't be seeing us in Bathurst rather reluctantly on the first night race of the season at round 5, but we'll be back on for round 6 onwards for a wet race in Brands Hatch on August 15th. And August 22nd, live from Paul Ricard. Then the season finale on September 5th in Suzuka for a 90-minute race. We're on board at the moment then with Takanashi, the first out among the fray here in Quali 2. So far, so good on the run down through the run of Nico Terrell corner. And so, ones to watch over the course of that qualifying session. You'll certainly be keeping an eye out for the previous front row in Quali 1, that being Mark Burton and Carlos Diesch. But in the absence of Fate Galaxy, now we'll wait to see if he gets back onto that grid. It is a rather curious turn of events there. Right now, I don't believe he is making his way back onto tonight's grid, so rather reluctantly so. So then it would pass the torch, so to speak, on towards Yuya Oya of Audi Sport Team Apex. The Finnish talent finished 3rd at the end of race 1 today. Out in front, that was Fabian Udenreuter that just went out wide at Jaime Masia. Down towards the line then, Takanashi. Baseline time here in Quali 2. That's if it stands as a valid lap. Across the line goes the number 1, 132.900. First time of today's session. Then from behind, that's Mark Burton, who was last race's pole sitter. Immediately 130.387. Then Matthew G. Taylor. From behind them, Eduardo Odoni. From behind them, the number 46 to the line. That'll be for Sean Moore of EverQuip Racing. Behind them, looks to be that of one of the stinking rich cars there. That is the, looking here, 199. So that is Richie Nielsen, his teammate. Smelly Hippie now to second. Behind them, the 911 and the 54. So that was for Tom Stallmeyer and Jamie Curtin. We saw from the other of two Ferraris, the number 46, Sean Moore, was no time set. But for Curtin of EverQuip Racing, now 5th, alongside Takanashi and Blank, a Ferrari 5, 6, and 7. Number 5, number 187, number 21, and number 555 nearest to the line. So of the latter, we see here Mark Taylor now alongside Burton. Now this is much more reflective of what we saw in that 10-minute free practice session with Burton and Taylor at the head of the field, but it still remains to be the question here, with Carlos Diesch making his way out of the paddock now onto the track. What are we going to see here from the Swiss talent? And he's down a man at this time. The 995, we still no understanding of the whereabouts there for that of Fate Galaxy. Meanwhile, new time in there. Oscar Dizzy-Oskal of Onid Racing goes into the top 10 there. Ferrari stacking out the top 10 of this field at the moment, but furthest among them is Daniel Comendi. We, of course, saw his fight with Smelly Hippie for what later became 4th place, and you can see picked up right where they left off then. Hippie in 4th, Comendi in 5th. Yuya Oya, 2nd, behind Burton, but ahead of Taylor. Nearest to the line here, we see alongside with the number 54 of Jamie Curtin, right up in front there is the number 19, not number 199, that would be Richie Nielsen, number 911, which is Tom Stallmeyer. 75 and number 9 nearest to the line, so that was, oh, as we just see here, trouble for Stallmeyer. Huge compression there on the rear axle, and just car kept bouncing out from Aspar corner. Ended up in the gravel. Odoni in 7th, Hippie 5th, Comendi 4th, Oya 3rd, Taylor in 2nd, Burton in the lead. Yuya Oya on his way to the line in the number 11. We can see, though, swerving his way down towards the start, so unlikely there was ever a chance of an improvement in that lap just gone, warming himself back up for another run here. 13 minutes left to go in qualifying 2. Nearest to the line, the 1-1-2. That's Oscar Dizzy-Oscar of Oned Racing from 15th now up to 13th ahead of Takahashi and Moore. Number 57 nearest. And I believe to go on to the fastest lap again here. I think that is an improvement over his last. Now 588 thousandths in the lead for Mark Burton. 6.56 across the line. Eduardo Odoni in the top 5 for Ford. Behind him was Fabian Ottenreuter. Number 46 nearest to the line here. We'll see if we can catch on with them. Sean Moore stays in 15th place there. We also, worth noting there, for Takahashi, all the way up to 8th place in that last lap just gone. Number 54, Jamie Curtin, yet to have taken them off of that 4th row. Very curious turn then for the number 1 S3MP Ferrari. Number 75 is nearest the line. That's for their teammate Andre Koch, now 18th. From behind them, I believe, is Bjorn Lars Blank. The number 9 there with Oned Racing goes in at 12th from behind them. The number, I believe, there, 66. That's Vasil Christoph of Stranger Team. Number 92, that's the Porsche of Matthias Winter. Went toe-to-toe with Takahashi in the last race. Finds himself reluctantly 2 positions behind us from across the line a moment ago there. I believe was that of Carlos Disch. Second in the session, and have a glance at that gap. Over half a second between Disch and Burton on this second qualifying session. Valencia might not be the strong suit of Carlos Disch. We've seen otherwise it's been a very dominant position in most championships, especially out of round 1 of this season. Was on very, very solid form for the run-in towards today's event, but Valencia seems to be somewhat of the kryptonite of the 994 Mercedes. Faltering off there by over half a second. He stands, as it would be the case, only 13 thousandths ahead of the Nissan in 3rd, that being Mark Taylor of CRT GTR. We see a recent move back up into the top 5 there for Eduardo Odoni, up and ahead of Daniel Comendi and Smelly Hippie. Nearest is the 420, so speaking of Hippie, on his way to the line. From 7th up to 5th there, ahead of Odoni and Comendi, for that matter. Number 199 is nearest, so here comes that of Richie Nielsen, Hippie's teammate. 18th there from behind him, I believe there, the number 19. Yes, that was Michael Bonar. And the 54 in behind him. All across the line a moment ago for Jamie Curtin, 11th at this time. Number 187, that for Guy Rayfield. 8th at this time, ahead of Matthew G. Taylor and Rika Takahashi to round out that top 10. Number 92 approaches the line. Winter still trying to gain those extra 2 positions. Finds plenty enough there. Now up and ahead into the top 10 over Matthew G. Taylor. Forces Takahashi from the top 10 entirely. Those two engaged in a great fight here in Valencia over the course of race 1, as we're nearly halfway through on qualifying 2. That recent chapter for the number 92 car, when he's, I believe, not joined this round, if memory serves rightly, by his teammate, that being Richard Claffey. Matthias Winter, standing alone for the CRT Racing Porsche lineup, is doing a very bang-up job of things here in Valencia. 112 and number 1 nearest. So here's Takahashi. Out from behind Oscar Dizzy-Oscar, who was 15th in that last lap. Takahashi in 11th. We see a recent leap there for Odoni, now ahead of Hippie and Comendi again here. This 3-way split between these drivers have been a rather interesting one to follow, as it is now, I think, likely to catch up to Yuya Oya. Having a look in that last lap, Odoni is only 300ths away from the Finnish talent on that second row. .199 nearest. That'll be for Nielsen, now to 16th in that last lap just gone. Number 66 nearest. And trying to catch on then for Vasil Christoph's point of view from 17th across the line, stays there. Then from behind him, one of the owned cars, that I believe being Bjorn Lars Blank. And the number 9, there's 13th. And behind him, the 187, Guy Rayfield, 8th in the session so far. Then the number 12 and the 656 across the line a moment ago for Reese Humphries, 9th. And for Eduardo Odoni, remains in 5th. It's worth noting that gap is shrinking dramatically between Carlos Disch and Mark Burton. What was over half a second between these two at this time, now 195 thousandths. Just a little under 2/10 of a second with 9 minutes left to go. Number 911 on its way to the line, so that would be for Tom Stallmeyer. From 22nd, stays where he is there. You can see approaching the line from behind is the number looking there, 1-1-2 and the number 1. So for Dizioskal and Takanashi, Takanashi's into the pit lane. Dizioskal stays out. Number 28 nearest. Fabio Nortenreuter now onto the timing charts there. 24 for the time being. Number 92 across the line, and that was for Matthias Winter. Squeezed from that top 10. Triple Eight across the line a moment ago. That was for the Nissan of Matthew G. Taylor. 12th in the session, stays where he is after his last couple of laps. From behind him was the number 46. Having a glance down the order there, Sean Moore of Everquip Racing stays where they are as well. Currently 19th in the session, ahead of Richie Nielsen and Vasil Christoph. 187 nearest. Rayfield looking to get back up further into the top 10. Squeezed towards the back of it recently here by advances from looking here, Connor Brennan and Samuel Bell. Also noted there for, I believe in the last lap just gone, was having a quick glance at it all here. I think, yes, it was for the Nissan. Actually, no. Sorry, it was not from the Nissan. But who was it there that squeezed Rayfield from the top 10? Bell across the line. Humphreys in 9th. Brennan in 8th. Comendi in 7th. Hippie in 6th. O'Doney in 5th. Maybe I just wasn't reading the top 10 right. I think I'm just going a little bit mental. Number 911 nearest. Here comes Stolmeyer from behind him. The number 112. Oscar Dizioskal now up past the 15th place mark there. Still ahead of Takanashi. 92 nearest. Winter. Across the line he goes from 13th, stays there. We see from behind him one of the 2 Audi cars there, the number 11 of Yuya Oya. Nothing so far. The 1-1-2 now back into the paddock for Oscar Dizioskal. 994, Carlos Deesh to the line, 195 thousandths to clear, couldn't find it in that last lap just gone. 6.5 minutes left to go. The fastest lap to beat then is by the race 1 winner here, the number 57 CRT Team Comac Mercedes of Mark Burton, 130.302. 656 nearest, rounding out the top 5 at the moment, and only 300ths away from a second row start is Eduardo O'Doney of Ford. Couldn't find anything there. Number 75 across the line a moment ago for Andre Koch of S3NP. 25th. Number 5 nearest, Comendi. 7th, stays where he is from behind him. Number 21, that being Samuel Bell. Steps 1 foot closer to his teammate Reese Humphreys. The Humbell team mark out the top 10 there, 5th row. All the pair of them at this time. Number 19 across the line, Michael Bonar, 17th. Number 911 nearest to the line, that'll be for that of Tom Stolmeyer, currently 24th as he crosses the line there, stays there. Number 66, Christoph, 22nd, stays there. 555 across the line a moment ago. Taylor stays there. Just under 6 minutes left to go. 92 nearest, so catching on here with Matthias Winter. Stays where he is. From behind him, I believe that was Connor Brennan. No, it was not. It was Yuya Oya. Again, these two running identical liveries. Often get them mixed up. 888 nearest, so here comes Matthew G. Taylor. Looking to sneak his way back up into the top 10. Has to get up and ahead of Rayfield and Bell before he has a chance of it. Needs about 4 tenths worth of distance. Couldn't find it in the last lap just gone. From behind him there, the number 199 of Richie Nielsen. 994 nearest. Again, 195 thousandths to clear for Carlos Deesh, but nothing in the last lap. It is getting painfully close between the two as the sun is set beyond the horizon here in Valencia. We could be on for some night racing by the end of today. 656 across the line. I know O'Doney stays with the R, so we are seeing for quite a lot of these drivers as temperature continues to fall further and further down. This glass ceiling of sorts forming up here. And in the case of the 994, it couldn't be more frustrating because it's keeping him so close yet so far away in the prospect of catching up to pole position. Comendi across the line there, 7th, Bell 8th, Brennan now 9th. So as it stands there in the case for looking here, Samuel Bell, he's now got up and ahead of Reese Humphreys. Brennan's in the middle of them at this time. Across the line went the number 66, Vasil Christoph, 15th. Number 92 nearest. Can he get into the top 10 is the question for Matthias Winter. Not on this lap. Behind him, Yuya Oya. Number 57 nearest to the line from behind them. As it stands, 195 thousandths. Still the gap here between Deesh and Burton. Just under 4 minutes left to go. 888 nearest. So coming to the line. Matthew G. Taylor, 12th, stays there. You'll be hearing that a lot the last couple of laps of this qualifying session, because we do find ourselves presented now with what doesn't appear to be much more distance available. We do note there, in spite of all, from 195 thousandths, now 83 thousandths between Deesh and Burton. So there was an improvement, but not enough to take pole for the 994. But it is laying in quite a heavy message to the 57 out in front. There is not too much on paper now distancing these two pace-wise heading into this second race. And the 994 really does seem quite fired up after missing out on an opportunity to go consecutive for race wins after Imola 2 weeks ago. Number 5 nearest, Comendi, as it stands to be the case, needs 38 thousandths on Hippie in front to go A, up into the third row, and B, ahead of what was one of his closest rivals over the course of race 1. 28 nearest to the line, so looking to locate here. Fabian Udenreuter. From behind him, the number 54 of Jamie Curtin. Udenreuter stays in 26th. Curtin stays in 17th. Number 92, Matthias Winter, 13th for the moment. Needs about, looking here, about half a second. A little under, actually, to go up into the top 10. Does find an improvement up towards 12th, so he's ahead of Matthew G. Taylor. From behind him was Yuya Oya. Still 4th place. Ahead of Eduardo Odoni, still by 300ths of a second. So it is so thin, the balance between those two. 187 nearest to the line. Guy Rayfield from 11th stays where he is. And then for Michael Bonar from behind him, the number 19 stays in 18th place. That is actually, I think, a net improvement over last quali. He was 19th in that session, 18th in this one. We do hear the sound of sifting gravel. I believe, yes, that is him planted in the wall at the end of this quali session. As we rapidly approach the point of no return. Connor Brennan is into the pit lane now. 28 thousandths over that of Daniel Comendi. 75 nearest. We follow here with Comendi down to the line from 8th place. Needs 28 thousandths for 7th. Goes all the way up to 4th. I mean, that is quite a leap there from Daniel Comendi. He's into the top 5. Forces Yuya Oya out behind by 23 thousandths of a second. It is right now 53 thousandths front to back from 4th to 6th on this grid. That is razor thin margins to clear with all 3 drivers still out on track. We are in the midst here of a qualifying shootout for 4th place with Comendi landing the first blow. Number 92 nearest. Here comes Winter. On what is possibly his last lap there. He pulls it short and is now out of this qualifying session at the best of times here, looking at 12th for the race start on race 2 today. 112 across the line. Onid Racing's Oscar Dizzy Oskal onto one more flyer. From behind him, the 888 across the line a moment ago for that of Matthew G. Taylor. These two 148 thousandths apart. As you see there, rejoining the track. What was the effort there from the number 81 of Giuseppe Amari? That could have nearly stepped into the way of the 888. Number 187 from behind. That was Rayfield, still hunting down a chance of a top 10 start for race 2. But finds himself falling ever shorter. It is worth noting now, Carlos Deesh is on pole in the closing seconds of quali. There is the chance of rebuttal. No, there won't be. Burton pulls it to one side in the gravel. Deesh has it. Deesh has it in quali 2. The 994 looks to be back on leading form for the run into race 2, but the question remains, given how strong his performance was for that of Mark Burton, what are we going to see in the first couple of laps here in Valencia race 2 at round 2 of the championship? 37 thousandths apart at the end of quali 2, and it looks to be in the back pocket here for Carlos Deesh, back on leading form. And if memory serves rightly, and I'll just quickly tap into some of the data from the last couple of weeks, just out of that first race, especially in qualifying, this is actually Carlos Deesh's first pole position. It was his teammate that had it in round 1 of the championship, Fate Galaxy, the 995 of which we saw earlier on today. So right now, with 3 races in, well, 3 qualifyings in, I should say, on this second round of the championship. So we've had 3 races so far, round 1, then round 2, race 1. Now we're heading into the 3rd this season, and we've had 3 different pole sitters on all 3 qualifiers. That is unfathomably close. That is super, super close there at the end of that qualifying session, but great hustle by Carlos Dietz. He's on pole. Burton in second, Taylor third, Kemendi fourth, Oya fifth, O'Doney sixth, Hippie seventh, Brennan eighth, Bell ninth, Humphreys rounds out the top 10, Rayfield in 11th. We'll get a full look at the grid in just a moment's time, but as now we don't have any further news to discuss, let's take a look back in towards the regulations one last time before today's second race of 25 minutes of racing up in front. After quali 2 that gave us quite a fair deal of action over on the front of the field, gives Carlos Dietz their first pole position lap this season. It was Fake Galaxy on pole in Imola. It was Mark Burton on pole for race 1 today. And now it's Carlos Dietz on pole for race 2. 3 different pole sitters, 3 different qualifying sessions. This has been quite the season so far, if I do say so myself. And with those recent blows to their performance when they were a man down in race 1, it looks to be much the same story here in race 2. Whale Racing could be losing out by loss of numbers here to the Audi Sport Team Apex lineup of Yuya Oya and Connor Brennan, but Carlos Dietz will not, by looks of things, be aiming to step down off of the lead of that Drivers' Championship. His worst result so far has been second place, if you can think that. Right now, we'll start on the run in towards race 2 today from pole position. You can see front to back there was 8 cars within a second of the leading time, including the leading time itself. That is a super, super close grid. Fastest lap at the end of that session, 1:30.265 by Carlos Dietz. A Mercedes 1-2 away from what was a 1-2-3 in qualifying 1 in the absence of Fate Galaxy. We do now find ourselves with Nissan on a starting top 3 position, courtesy of CRT GTR's Mark Taylor. Kemendi 4th, Oya 5th. This is setting up to be a very solid follow-up to race 1 today. Waiting for the form-up for the grid on race 2 of season 2, the Continental Racing League GT3 Teams Championship. Here from the Valencia double sprint, what has already given us a great bit of action in the opening quali and race. We now come to the end of our second and last quali, with the stage set for one last blast of 25 minutes of racing here at the home of the Valencian Grand Prix in MotoGP. It's Carlos Dietz then to line up on pole position for race 2 today. Mark Burton, who won in race 1 and was on that pole position for race 1 as well, starts from second now, playing second fiddle to the 994. These two borderline inseparable at the end of that quali session. Mark Taylor moves up to third for the start of race 2, with Daniel Kemendi in 4th. Yuya Oya rounds out the top 5 for Audi Sport Team Apex. Eduardo O'Doney with Ford in 6th place, and Smelly Hippie in 7th. Connor Brennan in 8th. Samuel Bell in 9th, and Reese Humphreys rounds out the top 10. Guy Rayfield in 11th, with Matthias Winter in 12th. Oscar Dizzy Oskal in 13th, with Matthew G. Taylor in 14th. Sean Moore in 15th, with Vasil Christoph in 16th. Rika Takanashi in 17th, with Jamie Curtin in 18th. Michael Bonar in 19th, and Bjorn Lars Blank in 20th. Colin Beattie in 21st, Richie Nielsen in 22nd, Giuseppe Amari in 23rd, Tom Stolmeyer makes 24th, with Fabian Udenreuter in 25th. It's Andre Koch to round out what is a 26-car grid.
30 seconds.
As we drop right in there on the 30-second timer. That's what you call precise timing in that grid readout. Goodness gracious me. 26 cars in attendance then. That'll make, by looks of things here, 13 on either side of which for the run in towards the start of race 2 today. The lights do come on, 8:25 p.m. local time here in the Valencian community, as we brace into another 25-minute mad dash at the end of the Valencia double sprint. It's this one here, Carlos Dietz on pole position. He'll be starting first among the fray. Took the race win in Imola, looking to return to that leading form that he governed out from Italy in the first round of the championship. And with 8 cars at the end of that qualifying session, including himself, separated front to back by less than a second, it is a razor-thin start to come up ahead of us here into race 2. For the one right behind him, Mark Burton, who started on a pole position into race 1, following on here, the 57, will be eager to return to the leading form he had just a moment ago at the end of race 1. Looking back on then with the 994, again, the same areas of interest to watch out for. Turns 2, 3, turns 2, 4, 5, 8, 11, and 14. as our key areas here of the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. But it is worth noting, off the exit of Turn 5 into Turn 6 was a notorious place here for quite a few incidents over the course of today's event. Of course, we did note was an incident during race 1 down at Jaime Masia. The cameras were not the most revealing to it. Making our way down through, I'm sure then trying to get inside the minds of these two Mercedes cars as they will be hounding each other right off the race start here. Watching over the rear view of Carlos Disha's car to see Mark Burton right on his tail. Now, this is not just to isolate them out from the rest of the field. It is worth keeping close in mind the cars they keep company in the top 5 here. Yuya Oya, Daniel Comendi, and as it would stand as well, Mark Taylor. 3 very strong drivers in from behind, and they're all hungry for a first victory of the season. It is going to be a mad dash in towards the next 25 minutes of racing at the end of round 2 of the championship. Could it be Nissan to take their first ever win away from Mercedes? Could it be Ferrari? Could it be Audi? Only time will reveal the answers as we make our way on towards turn 13. The whole grid now, 26 cars in attendance, bracing for impact here on the second and last race of the Valencia double sprint here at Season 2, Round 2 of the Continental Racing League GT3 Teams Championship. Down towards the line we go then. 26 cars in attendance, 13 on either side of which, 25 minutes against the line here in Valencia. Down towards the line for the second and last time today. We are green and racing here in Valencia. A suspenseful wait now finally received by the grid in force on the run down towards turn 1. A great getaway from Dish and Burton to push themselves up and along in towards Aspar. 994 looks to run wide off of turn 1. Following there with the 994 back up in towards turn 2. Half a second between Burton and Dish in towards Dewan corner. Right behind them we see that of Daniel Comendi and Mark Taylor. Yuya Oya in 5th at the moment on the exit of turn 2. Already yellow flags, the 54 and the 19 and the 199 and the 311. Among them then, Curtin, Beatty and Bonar. A great getaway though from Carlos Dish ahead of Mark Burton. Behind them, Daniel Comendi and that of Mark Taylor. Yuya Oya rounds out the top 5. A very strong start indeed then from the 994, looking to right the wrongs of race 1. Picks up where he left off in Imola. And that was quite the start indeed. Looking further down the line here, we see with Giuseppe Amari, as we do note the 199 is in trouble. That is for Richie Nielsen, if memory does serve rightly. Having a glance in here, we can see a very close pack of cars up and ahead of this one here, Guy Rayfield, who watches in towards Jaime Masia. There was contact up in front there between one of the Mercedes cars and I believe that of Eduardo Odoni. So this is fighting from the point of view here of Connor Brennan, fighting with Eduardo Odoni. He's got both Bell and Humphreys, the whole Humbell lineup behind him there. Not too far away is Matthias Winter and Guy Rayfield. Number 10 hounds onto the 656 on the run up towards turn 14 at Adrian Campos corner. Up front then, Dish leads away from Burton. Comendi in 3rd, Taylor 4th, Oya 5th, Hippie 6th, Odoni 7th, Brennan 8th, Bell 9th, Humphreys in 10th. Looking in behind, we do note here Winter v Rayfield picks up into a new chapter right behind them there. That's Oscar Dizioskal of Onid Racing looking to get a chance into the top 10 on the inside. Winter backs out. And that opens the door right up for this one here. CRT GTR's number 888, Matthew G. Taylor. Behind them, Rika Takahashi of S3MP Ferrari. In through to Dewan corner at turn 2. Behind them, Sean Moore. So far, so good then on the start of race 2, albeit there have been a few incidents there off the exit of Aspar towards the back of the grid. And then a few follow-up incidents thereafter. Having a glance in towards the paddock here sees Yuya Oya under siege from Hippie behind as he himself tries to lay in a 4th place over that of Mark Taylor. On the outside into Bernat Martinez, trying to position himself for the inside on the run up through turns 9, 10 and 11 up towards Jaime Masia in behind. Worth noting there, Odoni side by side with what appears to be that of, yes, that is Reese Humphreys. Heading up towards Jaime Masia. This is where things got ugly in the last race for a few of our fighters on today's grid, but we see it right now. As it appears to be the case, Odoni holds his ground from Humphreys. Bell in behind. Rayfield still within a sniff there of the top 10. Bell right up in front of him. Looking in behind. We do hear the sound of sifting gravel. It's for Matthew G. Taylor. Loses ground to Rika Takahashi. Up towards turn 30 behind them. Sean Moore. We see that for Taylor leaping for the inside. Just couldn't find any ground of it. He's swamped in by the Ferraris of Moore and Takahashi. Tom Stolmeyer is right behind as well with Vasil Hristov in tow. We see here a whole pack of cars storming their way up through to Aspar corner from the outside. The 46 of Moore holds his ground ahead of the 888 of Taylor. Heading in towards turn 2. We see him behind there, looking for the inside was Vasil Christoph on Tom Stallmeyer. McLaren versus Ford in through to turn 3, where he's still to the inside, but then it'll be to the outside for the start of Nico Terrell. Does he go earlier onto the brakes to try and counter? Couldn't find the space to do so. 888 still fighting with the rest of the field up in front of him there as we continue up through turn 6. Fortunately, unlike race 1, we can now actually see what's going on at turn 6. Watching here the three-way fight of 4th place, Taylor, Oya and Hippie, all contending. Up front, Deesh, as it would happen in the last interval, was just under a second away from Burton. In that last interval, though, 1.048. Mendy in 3rd, Taylor 4th. Trouble for Nissan then. They drop away from the podium. Kemendi takes up helm of 3rd over this one here. Mark Taylor of CRT GTI as he now tries to fend off a two-pronged defensive, a collective 20 cylinders backing up behind him there, courtesy of Audi's Yuya Oya and Lamborghini's Smelly Hippie, both of which share the same beating heart when it comes to that engine. 5.2 litre Audi V10. Further down the line then, speaking of Audis, Connor Brennan, 7th, holds his ground from Humphreys and Bell. The Bell line up there, 12 and 21, 8th and 9th. Behind him, Eduardo Aldoni rounds out the top 10. Guy Rayfield still trying to hound position away for a top 10, but he's got his own company to keep. And right behind him there is Winter, Dizzy Oskal, Takanashi and Mora. Side by side is Mora and Taylor getting up and ahead there. Actually, sorry, it's Takanashi and Taylor, I should point out there. The number 1 on the inside in towards Jaime Masia. Tom Stallmeyer in behind. We see Vasil Christoph nearly fall out of line there in his fight with Bjorn Lars Blank. Michael Bonar, same story. Both of these Stranger Team cars, they're trying to hound in one of the owned number 9s. Further up the line, it's blink and you'll miss it across most of the field here. So many close fights going on at the same time. We see here, and I think this is certainly one we want to go and catch on board with, is the fight between Yuya Oya, Smelly Hippie and Mark Taylor. Collective 26 cylinders in this fight. A 6-cylinder up front, the VR38 DETT from Nissan Motorsports from that number 555, and then 2 5.2 litre Audi Sport V10s in the Lamborghini and Audi R8 of Oya and Hippie. A tremendous engine note there. One of the most iconic sounds in GT racing of the last couple of years. We do know it was some trouble for the 656. Eduardo Odoni now falls even further down the line, now only up and ahead of the number 19, having recently fallen in behind the number 911 of Tom Stallmeyer. Watching here this fight for 4th place, Nissan versus Audi versus Lamborghini. We do note there, that's trouble for his teammate, the 555's teammate, I should say. The 888 Nissan in trouble. And going to catch on board here, seeing having picked up the pieces, Matthew G. Taylor rejoins the field. Up in front, Udenreuter v. Curtin down through to Nico Terrell as we do clear out into green flags. As for the 555, still holds confident ground of P4 over Oya and Hippie. Number 54 in trouble. We do have yellow flags out down towards what I believe is Stella Afición. And looking for the number 54, Jamie Curtin, in a huge incident with that of Fabian Udenreuter. Now, we saw them down through Nico Terrell, but we didn't see out through Angel Nieto. You can see the state of disrepair on the ever-equipped number 54 Ferrari. Jamie Curtin in serious trouble here on race 2. Meanwhile, we see a new fight emerge. Oscar Dizzy Oskal holds ground from Bell and Winter. Humbell v. Onid v. CRT Racing Porsche. Further up the line then, Hippie v. Oya v. Taylor. Still ongoing as we have a growing number of 3-way fights going on during this time. And we see here's a 4-way split when one includes Stallmeyer versus Moore versus Takanashi versus, looking here, Odoni, my mistake. Side by side there between now up and ahead, actually, I should say, for Odoni v Stolmeyer. Up to 15th goes Eduardo Odoni, but he falls out of line there out through doing so. Stolmeyer goes back on through at turn 3. End of turn 4, another exchange here by Odoni. Side by side into Nico Terrell. Brilliant section of the track to watch on with here on the run up towards turn 6 at Angel Nieto corner. Stolmeyer drops into 16th. Odoni to 15th up in front. Moore tries to hunt down Takanashi. Winter currently trying to hunt down Bell and Dizzy Oskel. Out through the run of Bernat Martinez. "16 minutes left to go, so we are rapidly approaching the end of the first half of racing here. 25 minutes of racing in total on race 2. We're already 10 minutes through on it. Still plenty of action going on track. Taking a look at the furthest fight up the field, and we do have to quickly jump away from it to bring you an update there from the fight for what was otherwise 13th place between Moore, Odoni, Stolmeyer and Takanashi. Is the leading number 1 there for the fight of 13th. Rika Takanashi has a drive-through penalty for track limits violations. Recent trouble then for S3MP. They have 2 laps to serve. Otherwise, it will, I believe, be disqualification. I'm not 100% sure it changes on a league-by-league basis. Looking here, Oya v Taylor v Hippie. Furthest fight up the field of any group of cars. It's worth noting what was originally a fairly close gap between Burton and Deesh has now opened up to nearly a 2-second interval between the 2 leading Mercs. You see there, trying to duck his head over the shoulder of that 555, just trying to get a look on the inside of turn 8. Was that of Yuya Oya, who finished on the podium at the end of race 1. Or Mark Taylor runs out wide there. The number 11 sneaks onto the inside. Will be to the inside for the run up into turn 12 at Champi Herreros. With better straight line speed, Mark Taylor slams the door shut. Let's stay on board here with the defending 555 Nissan, holding 4th place for his very own. He's 3 seconds away from the podium, courtesy of Ferrari's Daniel Comendi. But this has been a stellar performance from these 3 drivers, as it now picks up into a hot new chapter. So we saw just how close the chance was there, and just a momentary diversion from that to bring you a recent bit of news there. There was trouble for the 199, that being, I believe, Richie Nielsen of Stinking Rich Lamborghini. Had some trouble from turn 5 into turn 6, has now got back up and running, so no trouble anymore. That was an issue for him nonetheless. In through to turn 3. Now turn 4 here from Taylor. You can see the dynamic between these 2 V10s and the V6 they fight for control of 4th place, because on the straights here, that Nissan is an absolute bullet, but in the corners, the mid-engine Audi and Lamborghini far more pointy under rotation, so they've got a lot to give in those first 2 sectors. But as things continue to open up here, is where trouble starts to brew for the Nissan. Oh, not the Nissan, sorry, for the Lamborghini and the Audi, because the Nissan is able to open the taps up plenty more. Moreover, it's not really to be slept on, even though it's among the older designs here. I think we spoke not long ago about the difference in the way the aerodynamics have been set up on this Nissan. Of course, a 2018 model year example of the Nissan GTR still uses the older sort of underneath pin design for the rear wing assembly, instead of the sort of overarm one that we have on these modern cars now, which generates upwards of 500 additional newtons of downforce. It gives the cars just a little bit more poke. Nissan, a very by-the-books approach here, of course, was the last of the manufacturers to be doing so at this time. And that trend swept in almost immediately. Cutting away from their fight.
Still a long way to go.
As we cut in here to see the fight between Moore and Odoni for 13th place. We did get information not long ago the number 1 had come in and served their drive-through penalty. That was for S3MP's Rika Takanashi. Tom Stolmeyer, we see not too far away there. That's both Christoph and Bonar. So both of the Stranger Team Mustangs hunting down Tom Stolmeyer of Vanguard for a top 15 spot with 12 minutes left to go here on race 2 of round 2 of the Continental Racing League GT3 Teams Championship Season 2. So to report back on the fights as well as the current standing of things inside of the top 10. and beyond after the first half of racing. Carlos Dish continues to lead now 2.3 seconds over Burton in second, Comendi in third, and the furthest fight up the order we have at this time, Taylor, Oya and Hippie for control of fourth place. Behind them, Brennan in seventh, Humphreys in eighth, Rayfield in ninth, and Dizzy Oskell in the top 10. Winter in 11th, Bell 12th, Moore in 13th, fighting with O'Doney, so this is our next fight down the order here. 13th place away from 4th previously. Behind them, Stallmeyer, Bonar and Hristov. Three-way fight for 15th behind them. Then away from them as well, Matthew G. Taylor versus Bjorn Lars Blank for 18th. Rounding out the top 20, Giuseppe Amari, Colin Beattie behind in 21st, Andre Koch in 22nd, Rika Takanashi in 23rd. We see for Richie Nielsen 24th, Jamie Curtin just picked up a drive-through penalty as well. The number 54 has limited time to serve, and Udenreuter into the pit lane after a huge incident earlier in today's race between himself and that of Jamie Curtin. And speaking of, hang on just a tick here, the 54 is in at turn, I believe this is turn 2. Let's go to catch on board with the Ferrari here. We do have yellow flags down in that area of the track, and I'm told the 54 has retired from this race. A very sudden and surprising end to things there for the number 54 of Jamie Curtin. Leaves his teammate here, Sean Moore, out by their lonesome of EverQuip Racing to fight off Eduardo O'Doney for 13th place at this time. Looking back in on the fight for 4th place to see any further updates in the fight between Oya Hippie and Taylor. Down through Jaime Masia at turn 11 with 10 minutes left to go from the point of view of the leading Mercedes. That currently gives us, I'd say, roughly the grounds of about maybe 7 more laps of racing at our disposal. Maybe even 5 or 6 by chance. Down across the line we go from Dish. On to lap number 10. Behind him Burton, then Comendi as the sun well beyond the horizon. We start to settle into what is the closest we'll get for a while until Bathurst of night racing here in Valencia. You got to hand it to these three here, the commitment and consistency to stay this close to one another at all times with very little, if any, incidents thus far. From Hippie's point of view, he'll be praying an incident does happen, though, because if anything slips up between Oya and Taylor, it's just free ground. It's easy look of a top 5 for the number 420 of Stinkin' Rich. Further down the line, we do note here, that appears to be Matthew G. Taylor now in behind both the Stranger Team Mustangs of Christoph and yes, here at Michael Bonar, we see that Tom Stallmeyer now caught in between the pair of them, going for the inside. It was lofty there from Vasil Hristov. Can he hold the ground up and ahead of Tom Stallmeyer? Yes, being the short answer. We note as well, Bjorn Lars Blank gets up and ahead of Matthew G. Taylor. Onad Racing creeping up into that top 20. Meanwhile, we see then Stallmeyer losing out ground at Hristov. Both the Stranger Team cars are in the top 15. With Bonar in 14th, Hristov in a very close 15th. There could be a chance for a bit of a comeback here from Tom Stallmeyer. More on that, though, in a moment's time as we take a look back in to see recent updates then for the fight inside of the top 5 and just out of it, I should say, when one considers the 420. And these two are closer to each other now than they appear to be to that of Mark Taylor. Very solid defense for 4th then by the Nissan. You see here for Vasil Hristov, a little bit of a step there at Champi Herreros corner. There was trouble in behind. It's the number 911. Oh my goodness, it collects Eduardo O'Doney and I believe they're Bjorn Lars Blank. Yellow flags out. That was horror at Champi Herreros. We saw it here. And that's where the 66, they were fine. It was out behind them. We heard the sound of screeching tires. It was Stallmeyer. Collects there. The 656 was actually elevated off of all 4 wheels. Then we saw it just off before the cut was that of Bjorn Lars Blank collecting along the side of them there. That was a horror show for those two. Real drama then towards the back of the field. And what that does for Bjorn Lars Blank now forces him into the iron sights here of the S3MP team. Takanashi got free ground of position, but it's now Andre Koch to fight with him for 19th. Now, looking back up through the order, just as we quickly see there the move over that of Bjorn Lars Blank, of course, wounded Ferrari. Not a great deal he can do at this time with 6.5 minutes left to go in this race. Glancing back, and you can see Stolmeyer just off the left-hand side there in the pit lane. Oya and Hippie, the battle of the V10s continues on for 5th. What it does do, though, is kill off one of the major fights going on track. You do note from the pit lane, Chase Hamilton now onto the track, but 11, make it 10 laps down right now, but will soon be 11 laps in the number 48 Porsche. Makes a super late appearance. I believe is the case here for Hamilton that he has just come from Silverstone. We saw bits and pieces of it in the server not too long ago that he had been over at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit to watch the sprint race in Formula 1. Will likely be there tomorrow if I had to take any guesses about it. So all the best of luck to him as someone who's been to Silverstone for many different years. It's an interesting place to get around, and if the sun isn't on your side, it's going to be a rather fun day for you. Because for whatever reason, maybe it's just me that's got the problem, but there is no amount of sun cream that can stop me from getting sunburnt at Silverstone. It's like it's a different planet out there. Well, there's very little cover over that track. It is, of course, a former RAF installation, so very flat. And you're stuck right in the middle of it all. But best of luck to him tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to enjoy the British Grand Prix, and we'll be keeping you updated with the results from that on tomorrow night's coverage of the NLRL Sunday League. Watching here with Yuya Oya as he continues to hold off Hippie for 5th place, but they're getting closer and closer each lap. The time is ticking here. 5 minutes left to go in race 2 today. V10 versus V10. It is worth noting there, I believe. Oh, hang on, a little glimpse here. That's Reese Humphries. 9th place at the moment, but you can see the state of damage on the number 12 Mercedes. And I think, moreover, where's Bell? Bell in all of this is down the order as well. Both of these drivers for a time inside of that top 10. In the case of Oscar Dizzy Oskil, Oned Racing could be seeing themselves up towards a prospective 9th place by the end of this race. There is a wounded Merc out in front of them. That front aero is not going to be any more useful now for the next 4 minutes of racing. So that gap is going to start slamming shut between the 112 and the 12. There's a very real chance now presented to Oscar Dizzy Oskil of Oned Racing of something north of 10th place. Colin Beattie, we see this fallen down the order here now behind Andre Koch, the 311. And Eduardo Odoni as well with, that's definitely some trouble. We see Giuseppe Amari giving him the lights in the number 81 car in 21st. Looking back up the order, Hippie and Oya. And these three have sort of stolen away the show from that leading number 994. Not to be overshadowed then by the fighting going on behind him. Carlos Dish has served up an absolute blinder of a race here from pole to what looks to be on the grounds of a win. He's 3.5 minutes from the checkered flag, looking at his 2nd win of the season since Imola at round 1 2 weeks ago. And it is going to continue what is currently an ongoing record here in Season 2. Mercedes has yet to be defeated. It's worth noting it was Dish in Imola. It was Mark Burton in race 1 today. A brilliant performance for the number 57 by the CRT Team Comac lineup. And now Dish is back onto said leading form. Mercedes has yet to be stopped. It's a concerning sign for Audi, one of the nearest manufacturers to them at the end of round 1 in the Manufacturers Championship, because they are about to find themselves with quite a lot more trouble their way. Not only when they're being outscored in this round by both Ferrari and by Nissan, but on the simple fact that where one Mercedes falls, another is there to take its place. And in the absence of what otherwise could have been a 1-2-3 by Mercedes, had it not been for the disconnect of a Galaxy, we are still looking at what could very likely stand as a double 1-2. Christoph and Bonar, the two Stranger Team Mustangs, in the top 15. They continue to hold their ground. Matthew G. Taylor now quite a fair distance behind them. 2 minutes left to go. We are facing down against the last couple of laps today. We see for Bjorn Lars Blanky's into the pit lane, the number 9. I believe that is the end of the road here for him. He's out of race 2 of round 2 today. That is, it's a pity there. We see for his teammate, though, the time is now for Oscar Dizzy Oskil as he barrels down onto a wounded Reese Humphries. Humbel could lose ground of the top 10 in its entirety if Winter catches up any further. We see there on the inside and ahead at Adrian Campos. goes Oscar Dizzy-Oskal. Onid Racing now into 9th place. As for Matthias Winter, he faces down against possibly 2 more laps of fighting up in front of him. He's going to be eager to catch up to Reese Humphries. This could see Humbel relegated from the top 10 if Winter can close ground in a good enough time here. Looking back up the order, we do know there, Oya now under siege from Hippie off the exit of Angel Nieto corner. Hippie on the inside, down through Della Afición, then in towards Bernat Martinez. Lamborghini side by side with Audi on the run up towards turn 8. 1 minute left to go. And from the point of view of the leading Mercedes, down through to Champi Herreros, we're not too far off of that last lap, but with a recent move there by Hippie, now gets him up into the top 5 over Yuya Oya. Great move then from the 420, took advantage of one tiny slip off of turn 6 by the Audi in front of him, and takes up helm of the top 5, but he's looking to use that as somewhat of a springboard here to catch up to Mark Taylor. Onto the last lap we go then from the number 994, Carlos Disch. 1 lap away from another victory this season. But things have just picked up. White hot now inside of the top 5. Taylor now faces off against Hippie. Nothing left to stand in his way. We see in the pit lane is Giuseppe Amari in the number 81 car. Yuya Oya still reluctant there to have lost that top 5. Will be eager to try and hunt down Hippie wherever the chance does present itself, as one of the last remaining fights, I should say, on this grid. 420 looks to keep the intensity there on the 555. We are on the final lap here. From the point of view of the 994, makes his way down through turn 7 in towards turn 8 at this time. Flanking him as the 57 of race 1's winner today, Mark Burton. Ferrari looking at a podium today, courtesy of Daniel Kimendi. It's Nissan still fighting off both Lamborghini and Audi at the same time. I've got to say, for all that he's missed out on from getting a podium today, Mark Taylor has still delivered on one of the best drives in terms of defense, holding both of these drivers off. Has been quite a remarkable feat for him. Catching on, though, here with Well Racing's Carlos Disch. The first time since round 1 of the championship, he's going to face down against the checkered flag. First among the fray here. The checkered flag is out at the end of race 2 and round 2 by proxy into the line. Carlos Disch wins in Valencia. Mercedes, as of yet, undefeated. It was Burton in race 1. It's Disch in race 2. It was Disch also in Imola. They simply cannot be stopped with what they brought to the table today. Kimendi to see 3rd. Taylor holds his ground and sees a triumphant P4 defended valiantly there from the twin V10s of Hippie, who got a last couple of laps lunge up to 5th over Yuya Oya in 6th. Connor Brennan, his teammate, will see 7th place, a double top 10 finish there. Great points on the table for the Audi Sport Team Apex lineup. Guy Rayfield down towards the line. Up in front of him there, you can see is Giuseppe Amari to the line. Rayfield crossed the line there, 8th place. Dizzy-Oskal into 9th. Humphries holds his ground. Had it been 1 lap longer, he would have lost the top 10, so he's fought that one valiantly to the line to see 10th place. Matthias Winter in 11th. Samuel Bell in 12th. Sean Moore in 13th for Everquip. He's holding off Michael Bonar from behind. 9/10ths down to the line. We simply must go and catch on board, though, because there is a fight going on much further behind. Hristov to see 15th and Matthew G. Taylor to see 16th. But having a glance in here, Takanashi and Odoni, 17th and 18th. But have a glance in, there was a super close gap between these two. Andre Koch and Colin Beattie, but that looks to have dissipated. Matthew G. Taylor to the line. Takanashi to see 17th place at the end of race 2. Eduardo Odoni looking at 18th. Andre Koch looking at 19th. Colin Beattie will look at 20th place. Further behind them, Amari 21st, Nielsen 22nd, Stallmeyer 23rd, Blank 24th, Hamilton 25th. The line they go. The last of our drivers to get across the line there and finish today's race. But it's Carlos Disch from the pit lane there. We saw him come back in not too long ago. The 994 victorious for the 2nd time this season here in Season 2. And what a result it has been. Mercedes on a 100% winning streak across both Carlos Disch and Mark Burton, who finished on that front row. And Mercedes a double front row lockout at the end of race 1 and 2 there. Kimendi in 3rd, Taylor 4th, Hippie 5th, Oya in 6th, Brennan in 7th. And it's the final results come on through there. Rayfield in 8th, Dizzy-Oskal in 9th, Humphries in 10th, Winter in 11th, Bell in 12th, Moore in 13th, Bonar in 14th, Hristov 15th, Matthew G. Taylor in 16th, Takanashi in 17th, Eduardo Odoni in 18th, Koch 19th, and Beattie in 20th, Amari 21st, Nielsen 22nd, Stallmeyer in 23rd. Having a look further down the line there, Blank 24th, And then we saw DNFs for Kuiten and Udenreuter. Hamilton, multiple laps down, but sees 27th. Fake Galaxy was a DNS for race 2 after a disconnect over the course of race 1. But what a story it has been here in the second round of the championship here on the Continental Racing League Season 2. Having a glance then at the road ahead, away from double victories then for Mercedes here in Valencia across Burton and Diesch's separate victories today. Having a glance at what race comes up next for us. As we mentioned, we'll be heading over to Austin, Texas on July 11th for our first ever take of wet racing at the Circuit of the Americas. That comes up next week, same time as today. If you're joining us on tomorrow, Season 6, Round 7 of the NLRL Sunday League powered by TRTN, we're live from the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, heading to the home of the former Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. That's all from us here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.